All right, here we are. This is the Crash Canon podcast. I am the host, Chris. I also host some other podcasts, at least used to host some other podcasts, which we've already had this guest on. But before we get into that and all the marbles, I want to plug the guy that wrote the intro for this show now. It's Enoch. Check him out with the QR code. And who are you? I can't talk tonight, apparently. My guest, who are you and what do you do?
Hello, everybody. I'm ALBELEO. I review movies and shows and whatnot on the YouTubes, and have a secondary channel where I focus on BattleTech and MechWarrior. If you want to try to generally get away from politics, that is when I have time to make content for that. But yeah, I tend to give it pretty straight as it is, and I don't often care what other people have to say.
I have to say, I really enjoyed the intro to, oh my goodness, what video was it? I just clicked on a few of yours today to remind myself what your content sounds like because I usually catch them when they're live, but I was like, okay, what other stuff has he covered again? And you opened up with something about aborting a movie, and I was just cracking up. It was like one of the funniest intros you could have come up with to include like being pro-life but also anti-abortion in the same, but then saying we should abort this movie. It was hilarious.
Oh, yeah, because Trump had just signed in like a executive order or something to get. Oh no, or was it the Biden? I don't remember. It was something about getting rid of abortion, but he missed this one.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I forget which one that was, but yeah.
Oh my goodness. I clicked on that. I was like, oh man, just coming right out with it. That was amazing. All right. So for those that didn't watch my old podcast, I have a podcast called The Krillcast, and we had been doing reviews. Not me, but Will and Andrew, my old co-hosts, had been doing reviews of the Game of Thrones spinoff. House of the Dragon, and the Rings of Power, which my guest today has some very strong opinions on the Rings of Power, and so did my old co-hosts. And so they brought him on to discuss just the dichotomy of worlds between Rings of Power and House of the Dragon, and they did a bunch of podcasts on that. And I think that's still your most popular video is your total demolition of Rings of Power. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it was like I want to say it was like the fourth episode because we were doing them. This was back when everything was still just straight pixel art, and I couldn't keep up with it because the weekly, like making all the images in sequence and doing it week to week to week was brutal on us. And that's
Oh, I
when
bet.
that's when I shifted over to doing the mixture of video clips and pixel art, which is kind of where I've settled. If I have time to edit, I'll put in the pixel art stuff. If not, it's usually just lazy clips. But yeah, that like fourth. So the third episode had a joke in it about about Mount Doom being started like a car engine, and I didn't know the details of this, and because I don't have a lot of time to watch like Nerdrotic and all of them, even though I'm totally on board with like 90% of what those guys say, like we're all aligned on things. I rarely ever watch anybody else because I don't want to uh, I don't want to like cheat my reviews because I feel like I'm being like inauthentic because it's not me, it's someone else's logic. So I made a joke about it starting up as a car engine, and then we got to that point in that fourth episode, which became the biggest. I think it cracked like 250,000 views inside of like a week. So for me, it went mini viral, and that's kind of how the channel really got off the ground. Otherwise, I don't think I'd have 1,000 subs at this point. But the opening of that fourth episode is just previously on X-Men, and then it just plays that clip, and then it plays the moment that actually happens in the episode, and people in the comments are like, he called it. I it was such a one-off joke of there's no way they're this stupid. And I never would have guessed something like using a sword that regrows the blade using human blood would then be used to stick in the side of into a mechanism that some humans made in the side of a base up on a dam next to the lake to turn it to flood Mordor and cause the volcano to explode. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
You know, it would have been even funnier if the transmission had stalled out and Mountain Doom didn't function as expected.
Right. I really wish that were the case, or at least, stalled out in the writers department, but unfortunately we've got a third season coming out.
I don't know how they've gotten greenlit. I mean, I guess unless Rings of Power is printing just enough money to keep the doors open. I don't. I mean, people are hate watch. Maybe it's because people hate watch it. Some people just don't know Lord of the Rings and watch it anyways. It is technically free with Amazon Prime, so maybe that's also driving views. I don't understand it. I don't see the hype. I don't like. I got a few friends that watch it and enjoy it, and they just aren't big Lord. Like they're big Lord of the Rings fans, but they're not like lore fans. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. The Rings of Power, so they couldn't get the rights to the Silmarillion,
Right.
which is what the story is based on. So they had to shift over to what they could use, which was the letters from Tolkien to the fans. So
I thought it was the appendix. I thought they got the appendix.
They got like both of them, and that's about as far as they got. So they've had to try to like piece together the Silmarillion using the epistles and everything that Tolkien had wrote. It's like trying to piece together the entirety of the Castlevania timeline from the booklet of like the third game and Symphony of the Night. And you just have no idea what else you're doing. And not to mention, they also dropped, I think it was like $500 million. It was like
Oh yeah, they dropped an absolute ton. Like, I can imagine somebody at the Tolkien estate was like, yeah, we haven't been making as much money lately. And then Amazon rolls up with a dump truck full of cash and says, hey, you think we could make some stuff out of this? And they're like, yeah, but you have to use the bits and scraps we haven't sold rights to already.
Yeah. So they dropped anywhere from 0.5 to $1 billion on it, and they promised like 5 seasons. That's what they greenlit from the start. So they're in it. They can't get away from this, which actually goes to answer why everything looks so terrible. Because if you go back and you look at a lot of things, the Balrog is like the only thing that looks good. Everything else is washed out. Looks, like Saturday morning Sci-Fi Channel, themed marathon movies on from that era. Like that's what so much of it looks like, and it's a shame because they put everything into making as much of that world look as good as they could, and then they still blundered that because all the armor looks terrible.
It looks like the what is it called? That Halloween pop-up store just like handed them a bunch of costumes and said, "Here you go."
Yeah, like they ran down to Spirit Halloween. It's like, quick, do you have like 50 of these? No, we don't have enough.
So then they just AI'd like a bunch of like what is it? Copy pasted the crowd.
They actually
I forgot they did that. I forgot.
Yeah, because I called that out in the it was like the second to last it's the last or the second to last episode of the first season where Guy Ladriel and all of them are charging into battle. There's maybe 16 people on horseback, but if you pay attention to the clumpings of troops behind them, they're actually copy pasted. They have the same movements. You can actually line up every individual character with like different with different numbers or different colored dots to track them. It's the same exact person. They did that.
Yeah, that was like beyond the scope of anything I expected to see done from a legitimate studio, which makes me question if there is a legitimate studio working for Amazon building Rings of Power. I feel like they paid so much for the rights and then just said, Lord of the Rings guys, lead it up. like what?
The team of people behind Rings and any other project, to be fair, it doesn't matter what it is, Invincible or Boys or any of these shows. Like,
gosh, Invincible. There's nothing that makes me more angry than what happened with Invincible.
You talking about?
I was enjoying Invincible, And then I found out what was going to happen at the end of the most recent season. And even if you give a pass to the episode where he goes to hell, which is just weird as all get out, I can't support a show that acts like the guy's the bad guy for not being there when his girlfriend decided to have an abortion. Like what the heck's wrong with you? Why do superheroes have to have an abortion? It's like that was so forced. It wasn't even funny.
It's not even a good moment in the comics. Like they made it worse because they shunt the blame from I'm forgetting her name, right? Eve, the Adam Eve.
Yeah.
They shunt the blame from her to Mark, which doesn't happen even in the comics. It's just she was scared, she thought he died, and she panicked and made that decision, which was still terrible in that. But she's like, there's no oh, it's you kind of problem, right?
It's more like I panicked and made the wrong decision. Versus in the show, which I didn't watch it, I just saw the scene was like screenplay, because I was like, I'm not watching this anymore. Once I found that out, just total boycott for me. But I found out she basically says, "Oh, it's because you weren't here." It's like, what? And then he's like all apologetic, like, "Oh, I screwed up. I should have been here for you." It's like, first off, dude didn't even know that was going on, so like, how would he have known to stay? And then secondly, because does he know when he leaves that she's with child? I don't think he does.
No, when Mark comes back, this is all new to him. He finds out that she is pregnant, or was, and that she had an abortion in the same conversation.
That's crazy. Yeah. No. Yeah. Him being to blame makes no sense. It's so like feminist trope. Like, oh, she did the wrong thing, but it's still his fault. It's like, that's so dumb. Like, it's so overplayed. It's so frustrating. And I decided at that moment, I almost just like, I pretty much stopped watching the show when they did the hell episode because it made no sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I was willing to just skip that episode and keep watching until I found out about the abortion. I was like, no, I'm done. I'm done watching this show.
Yeah, well, as Lauren commented here, the same example. There's so many. It's become such a common trope for leftist, all this woke communist writing. Somebody does something wrong, and no matter what, the woman cannot be at fault. So Tila getting angry at Adam for dying because he was killed by Skeletor, somehow that's his fault. Or even in shows like Castlevania on Netflix, which I've gone hard against in 4 reviews. I've got 2 more to finish. There's a point where a character named Annette, who is in the games, she is the fiance of Richter. He's the main Belmont hunter at the time. In the anime on Netflix, her anger gets her best friend killed, and instead of her accepting that she's the one who screwed up, everyone coddles her. And then later, when Richter says, "Okay, because of what happened, we need to formulate a plan," and then she calls him a coward and a moron and a bunch of other things. Like, she just berates him for zero reason. I'm just like, what is this writing? This is insane. But yeah, it's all over Hollywood, because Hollywood is godless at this point.
You know what's funny? Like, the most clear distinction in how my worldview has changed from teenager to adult is I was replaying the Mass Effect trilogy. Have you played the Mass Effect trilogy?
No.
Okay, so in the Mass Effect trilogy, there's Renegade and Paragon. Yeah, Renegade and Paragon. Yeah, it's similar to like the KOTOR stuff, right? When I played this as a teenager, I made like every Paragon choice without question. It was like the game was training you to like choose the most, we'll say, politically correct decision. Otherwise, you were Renegade, right?
Yeah.
This time around, I was playing it, and one of the first decisions that's like a big decision you can make. You can either totally wipe out this race of spiders in space, but they're like creepy possession, like demon possession things. Like they take on the brains of things to talk to you, kind of like Tentacruel does in the Pokemon series.
Sure.
And they give you this option, like, oh, you can spare this species of spiders that are just these ugly, demonic-looking things. And I was like, no, wipe that crap out. Like, get this thing out of the universe. We don't need this crap here. And one of the other decisions they make you make at the end of the first game is whether to spare, whether to sacrifice tons and tons of people, like humans, to save the alien intergalactic council. And I'm like, nah, screw the council. Human manifest destiny. We control the galaxy. Kill that council for all I care. That's where I'm at. Like, that's where my worldview is these days. Total renegade in Mass Effect.
It's like the
Like,
one thing that survived from that terrible Civil War movie.
yeah.
The meme from the trailer where it's like we're Americans. And he's like, okay, what kind of Americans are you? It's like okay, what kind of space council are you?
Yeah, so they like make it out like you're the bad guy for choosing that. And like, so the funniest part about this whole thing is, right, so if you side with saving the intergalactic council, then they go to the next game and they basically just chide you the whole time for being the good guy and saving them, right? And then the funniest thing is, so if you choose to be a paragon, then the human representative in this intergalactic council is like this very pragmatic black guy. If you choose to be a renegade and you let the council die, it's this old nasty white guy. It's like, how much more clear can you get with this decision? It's like, what the heck? Like, obviously the white guy's the bad guy, period. Like, whatever. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. But I'm like, you know what? I'm picking this guy. I'm gonna see what happens when I pick this guy. That's where I'm at.
Did he end up not being the villain?
He's not a bad guy. He's more like, he's just puts. It's almost like they want to make being pro humanity in this game into like you're a racist, but you're actually like a xenophobe, I guess, if you want to call it that. But you know, I'm like, you know what? Screw all these aliens. Why do I want to be? Why do I want to? Let's just maintain the human race. You know what I mean? Like, why do I care about all these aliens? Honestly, like I just don't care. You know, I don't know. It's just stupid.
That's something that I've been trying to pull back on a little bit, and this is something that Mahler and his buddies over at EFAP, which is it's such a clever name. Every frame of pause is just EFAP. What they don't, because they're not all politically inclined or knowledgeable. So it's like I think Rags is the only one, and just because he's down south in Arkansas. The rest of them are all either Australian or British, so inferior, and they always try to explain it's best not to necessarily look through a political lens, because that may blind you to something that's not intended to be political in any way. And so what they like to hammer on is just the quality of the movie or show or whatever, because especially as we like with Master of the Universe or Mass Effect or Castlevania, these can be looked at without a political lens and still called out as the terrible writing trope that they are. So that's what they like to focus on. But I still lean towards you should view things like in a political lens, but you have to be aware enough to take the glasses off every once in a while.
Oh yeah, like I don't even feel like you're doing something that's wrong by supporting humanity. Like, I don't want to send like this council is nothing but jerks to you like the whole game. Like they basically remind you over and over and over again why humans can't join the council, and then like they begrudgingly let you join because you saved them, or you can just replace them with a total human council because you didn't save them. Like, those are your choices essentially.
Oh, great. Yeah, kill him.
Right, exactly. Like, what do I care? Besides that, the only people who do good things in this game are you and the aliens that work with you. Like, that's it. Everybody else is like trying to play this, we have to work within the system. We can't do the right thing. And it's like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, it makes no sense to save the council in Mass Effect, honestly. Like, looking back, it's like they don't do anything to help you other than when they first make you a Spectre begrudgingly, which lets you basically work outside the rules.
Yeah, sure. The issue with a lot of that I see is just like anytime I get into a flame war or something on Twitter. It's just like no one can agree on a level of objective morality,
Yeah.
you know. And I find that really odd because I suppose this is a great segue into how I got where I am now.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about your conversion story.
Because one of the things that really frustrated me over time, because I grew up in a Christian household, but no consistency. There was no discipline in anything, and hanging out with all my friends and buddies through the 90s and everything, we all came to just favor media and everything else that we were doing, and it was frustrating where in hindsight I kept running into problems over time where we were all supposed to have moved towards science being the be all end all, and it didn't stay consistent. There's a great example of this in. Did you ever see the video with Sam Harris and Ben Affleck?
Probably not.
Okay, so for anybody who hasn't seen it, there's a video. It's probably almost 8 to 10 years old now. There's a video where Sam Harris, who was one of the four horsemen of atheism,
yeah, it was Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, and like two other guys that I can't name.
Christopher
Hitchens, who famously died from, what was it, throat cancer or
throat
something?
cancer. I love Andrew Schultz's joke about that.
Yeah, he's got a good one.
He's like, that sounds an awful lot like God saying shh. And then there's the fourth one with a beard, and no one cares about him. But so these four guys came along, and they made science sound sexy and intelligent and everything else, and everybody like most of the group claimed to be about facts, math,
and the truth,
science,
right?
Statistics, consistency, honesty, evidence, and empirical data, yada yada yada. And when we were getting towards the 2016 election with Trump and Hillary, I was like, you know what? I don't know anything that really happened under Obama because none of us paid attention.
That's
right?
correct. Almost no, other than we knew the economy sucked. Nobody really paid attention.
It led to a lot of the problems that we have now because we just didn't pay attention. You get to that election, and I started questioning things, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do the one thing I know how to do, which is apply these standards and stay consistent. So I started researching. I started asking questions, and everybody in my friend group was there was 99% of my friend group was just all in on Bernie. And this is, of course, this is all right before Bernie, bent the knee and sabotaged everything and betrayed everybody.
You mean when he went from taxing the millionaires and billionaires to just the billionaires?
Oh no, that came after he wrote his book, which
I know.
Which is so funny. He wrote a book about sell socialism in a capitalist economy, and then he became a part of the 1% for a month, and that is the exact moment in his Twitter timeline where you can find where millionaire is no longer in the dialogue.
It's just so funny. It's so funny.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it probably. I'm glad I saw this coming because you could tell the man doesn't have a spine since his head is coming out of his sternum.
Right.
Which is even funnier when he used his private health care to save his ass from that heart attack that he suffered. But, God forbid anybody else ever push for free health care in the United States. Yeah, he couldn't push for any of that and get it through. But nah. Private health care saved him. But yeah. When I started doing research into Bernie and what he stood for and what he had actually done, and because like everybody knew Trump. Everybody knew Trump from the movies, Home Alone, or shows like the one with Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He had that one episode.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, which is funny because he's like, everyone's always blaming me for everything.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. But I started asking questions, and the first thing I asked was, because I was at the time I was I was about one subject, which was science. Can we advance health and medicine, yada yada yada? And I stumbled across a couple things, like Bernie had apparently signed on for funding for one of our U.S. military jets. Blew my mind. It's like, I thought you were like the anti-war guy, and you're over here funding like the Raptors. Like, what are you talking about? So I bring up all these things, and I noticed a shift in everyone's actions and reactions.
Like around you, like your friend group started acting differently.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially after I asked the question. So one of the I infamously have an ex-best friend who I traveled across the country with this dude. Like, he offered me to go to Washington State with him because he was going for video gaming and technology. I had nothing, and I was depressed from a really bad loss in a relationship. And he said, "Hey, you want to go over here?" I said, "Sure." Like, we were peas in a pod, game developing and everything else. We bounced off each other so well. And there was a moment where I asked him, like, "What do you think about this? Because I don't know if I trust Bernie, and I definitely don't trust Hillary because of everything that happened with Clinton."
Right.
And it was weird. It was like, in a fanciful way, it's like talking to him, and then sort of like the movie Mimic, where like that mask for those the Judas strain of the roaches, it just splits for a second, and you see the monster underneath. I'm just like, whoa, because he never gets angry, and he, to me, was always like the wisest and calmest out of the whole friend group. And to see that underneath the mask, like, actually threw me off really hard, because he never actually got like aggressive with me ever. But to tell him I wasn't considering Hillary and I was losing faith in Bernie, but I was, him and Trump were saying the same things. To see that split was the first real glimpse behind the mask for almost all of my so-called friends.
Well, because to them, it's not actual. It's a religion, and thou must vote per the religion.
I actually have a revelation about that too that we'll bring up eventually, because I'm working on a bigger project for all of that too.
Okay.
And the so that was the political end of things. And then I started looking at things generally when it came to politics. And ironically, the thing that like actually got me into my gateway drug into politics and religion was, ironically, the Joe Rogan podcast.
That doesn't surprise me, though. He did kind of wake a lot of people up.
Oh yeah, he's Rogan. There's a reason they hate the Rogan podcast, and they lament that mistake now. The first episode I had really watched with him was when he had Neil deGrasse Tyson on, and I was like, oh, sweet, this is the guy that made physics sexy again, right? like I love Tyson, until I started learning that he was kind of full of crap. And he just made up quotes about a lot of things, which it just stunned me, because when you're a part of the leftist mentality of things, you don't think. You're not encouraged to think. You're actually not. Somebody said
he sits in a weird spot politically and in science, because
he's a coward. He doesn't actually want to lose what he has.
Well, what's interesting though, one of these days, look up his commentary on the Gregorian calendar and why he refuses to say BC and BCE. I'm sorry, BCE and
oh yeah, he still respects BC and AD.
He's got like a respect for history, but not for religion.
Yes, yeah, which is a number of things that, in hindsight, there's a lot that it's pretty eye opening in
Yeah.
the way I disagree with so much what he said. Um, but he sat down with Neil, and they had a conversation, and they got onto the moon landing, which at the time Rogan was most infamous for having said that he didn't believe in the moon landing. There was evidence that he found that showed that the landing was fake, but he found more evidence to prove that we had landed on the moon. So he said, "All right, I went to where there's more evidence of, and that's what I sit by, and I admit that I was wrong." And it was in the middle of this transitional period politically, where I thought, okay, well, if he's got the humility to it, then that's a good thing. We need to accept that if somebody's wrong and they make a mistake, you have to give them good grace. You have to,
Especially if they'll admit it and be humble about it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. If it's genuine, because that's the difference between. I mean, you and I know this well. The intent behind things is what matters. It's the difference between virtue and sin.
Right.
So when I brought this up to that same friend, that I defended Rogan, saying he admitted that he was wrong about the moon landing, and this buddy of mine was, no, I don't care. He's an idiot.
well, it's funny that you say that. Do you realize actually the way that the modern left operates in this country is basically a early church heresy? Have you ever heard of the Donatists?
No, but it sounds delicious.
So the Donatists is Donatist.
Oh,
They basically believed that thou shall be sinless or thou shall be out of the church. That's basically how the left treats their own.
oh, okay, I get it. All right, interesting.
Like once you've been baptized, essentially, if you've committed any sin whatsoever, you're in bad grace basically for the rest of your life.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's that's how this went. And yeah, it's not exactly a great measure, as anecdotal as this is, but to fast forward to the cleaving, not even cleaving is still not right, because it is true, but it's excommunication is
Yes.
accurate. This guy, like, I had raised a point. This was the last real straw for him, because he made a post responding to one of my replies to somebody, because you'll the TLDR kind of problem of, you write a thesis of a response, that the left does. I did that. I did that too. Like, it's funny how, looking back on everything, I'm just like, oh yeah, no, I was retarded.
Because you want to address their points. They're your friends. You don't want to just cut ties and call it good. Like, that's not how life works. People don't want to be like that. But it's like, thou shall not commit sins against the ideology.
The thing that frustrated me about all of this was his response was to one of my posts concerning the problems around illegal immigration crossing the southern border, because there were three major problems here. There's, and all three are trafficking. You have the actual labor trafficking, the people coming over the border. You have the sex trafficking with all of the boys, girls, everybody of all ages, and you have all the drug trafficking. The problem is out of control, and I've been in the trades pretty much my whole life, from 12 or 14 when I first picked up a wrench. I've had to deal with a lot of this. I've heard numerous horror stories from everyone. It doesn't matter, white, black, brown, yellow, tan, red, don't matter. Everybody hates everybody, because everybody's stealing from one another. Everyone's screwing up other jobs. Everyone is, electricians are blowing out vent and drain lines for plumbers, and they pick fights, and all the Polacks in Chicago use enough nails that you could pull a 2x4 out and it looks like a nailed bat is just a it looks like an epic weapon from a you just pull out of the wall. Like everybody hates everybody, and so it was never an issue of like racism is the problem. That really hasn't been the issue. It's just bad people. And so when I point out, you know, there are like here are the issues of the coyotes, right? And the left, famous, infamous, famous, however you want to view it, didn't know what a coyote was. Did you see this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think didn't Kamala screw that up like royally when she went down?
I don't know about Kamala, but they're famously all of the leftists back when Trump was bringing up everything about coyotes. These coyotes, they're coming over and they're bringing people over the border, and of course, all of the Reddit brained morons decided to take him literally.
Of course they did.
Well,
Of course they
were
did.
dragging people over the border and bringing fentanyl, which, by the way, is actually true because there are plenty of trained animals that these guys are actually cutting open, stitching together after they stick a brick of cocaine up their ass, and then they end up getting ripped apart and tossed down the Rio Grande once they've made their delivery. Like, it's despicable. But the coyote being the term for the people, the people who are leading the caravans of others over into the United States. That's what he was referencing. So
Yeah.
Reddit, back when I still had an account, there was a big moment where these guys were actually making art and mocking what Trump was saying about literal coyotes. And that, of course, quietly died off because everyone realized, no, coyote is actually a term for the caravan leaders and those bringing people over the border. When I brought this up, this 14, 15-year friendship came to an end because he said I was racist.
Obviously, that's what happened. You know, that's why you're bringing this up because that's how you feel about things. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me while I goose step into another stream. No, it was really frustrating because these guys were, like I said, fact, math, science, statistic, empirical data was the Stephen Fry quote. You know, if you have the evidence and it's overwhelming, then it is proof, and we move forward from there. Nope, all of it got thrown out the window. I still have the messages of one guy who just lambasted me over Facebook Messenger. And it's just hysterical, but that's what it was like. Anecdotal as it is, like I said before, I had, I don't know, 150 to 200 friends on Facebook at the time. I dropped all the way to like 75. I lost like half of everybody that I knew. These are people that I had known, I loved, I dated, I hooked up with, I fought for, I bled for. These are people who I laid in gravel, and out here in the hellhole that is Illinois, there was we actually can get like 4 seasons of weather inside of an hour. So there was one of these old buddies had a MR2 Toyota MR2 Spider, and the belt snapped on it. The frontage road where my folks live down the road, it's gravel. So my brother and I were laying in wet gravel from the winter, and then it proceeded to rain, sleet, hail, rain on us as we were working on this.
Listen, I live in Michigan. I have the same problem.
Oh yeah, okay. So that's the kind of far that I would go to help others. I defended friends in high school during a fight, and I'm the one that got slugged in the face repeatedly. But now I was a social pariah. I was public enemy number one. I can't believe you believe this. I can't believe you would side with this. One of the guys I knew at my old job, which was a gaming arena, right? Come in, pay money.
What now?
One of my old job was a gaming arena. I used to run the
game what?
A gaming arena.
Arena, gaming arena. The way
Yeah.
it sounded like you said it fast and it kept cutting out, and it sounded like you said like gay men's club or something. That's what I was hearing. I was like, I want to make sure I heard the right thing here because
Yeah,
like,
no,
interesting.
like, oh no, Albeleo pulled out. You never pull out. Get him, you know. And that, like, no.
It just I kept hearing that. I was like, "There's no way he said that. I need to find out what he said."
Can you imagine if that was actually the context? I'm like Peter Griffin after the gay gene wore off, and I just wake up from that. I'm like, ah! No, the gaming cafe that I
Gaming cafe, okay.
I ran the front. You pay money, you get X amount of hours, you play on computers, consoles, etc. One of the guys that I got into a debate with when COVID first popped off was that light can be used for healing and therapy, because there is light therapy, and one of the ways you can do it is they put a tube down your throat into your lungs, and they blast it with UV light, and it kills diseases and everything inside of you.
I've heard of this.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, when I said it, I was actually just talking out my ass because I didn't know this was a thing. But I immediately researched it to make sure I was right, and of course, it existed. Thank God, because it wasn't even an idea that I necessarily had. It just kind of popped into my head, and divine or not. And the response I got at the end of that was, "You're so smart. Why are you using your brain for evil?"
What?
I'm not kidding.
Oh my!
I'm not kidding. This is how my political evolution shifted, because I remained consistent to what I had studied from people like Hitchens and Harris and Dawkins and all of these guys, because I looked up to them. It's like, we need to be smart, we need to be consistent, we need to be, courteous. We need to do all of these things and move forward with the evidence. The second episode of Rogan that I watched, which came out the day after Neil deGrasse Tyson, Gavin McInnes. and this was one of the big things theologically, because in that episode, and it was taken down multiple times, in that episode, I decided, okay, I'm gonna write notes down. Whatever he says, if it angers me or something, I will look it up, and I will stick to my guns, be consistent and truthful. And he brought up something about inbreeding and lower IQ among the Muslim population, because the Quran allows for the marriage of your third cousin, not even removed, your third cousin.
Right.
And so when you have when you have 1.4 thousand years of inbreeding in these different areas, well, yeah, everyone's going to get really stupid. And, well, no, all the numbers checked out. And so when I heard McInnes talk, I was like, he's not wrong. And so comparing it back and forth, I was like, but I hate you. But you're right. But I hate you. So,
well, there's actually more to it than just the inbreeding situation. There's actually, we'll get into it when you're done. Let me finish your story, but I want to circle around to this. There's an inherent issue that I really think we should discuss with just this whole the new atheist movement only works for a specific reason, and I'll tell you when we're done.
Oh yeah, it only worked for a few years, and then people started thinking, because
there's an inherent issue with it that I would like to touch on when you're done.
I want to touch on the morality too.
It's not even just that. There's an underlying foundational issue that I don't think gets discussed very much, and we'll get to that when you're done.
So it's like within the week, I think he had some great lineup of people that I didn't really know about at the time. I think it was like the first time he had Ben Shapiro on. So I got a pretty good argument from a religious perspective on that. Granted, Ashkenazi Jew, but it was, the fact that it
I
was.
thought he was Sephardic. Is he Ashkenazi?
I'm positive he's Ashkenazi.
Okay,
No. You know what? No, I think you are right. I don't remember.
Hold on, I'm Googling this. You keep going.
Yeah, figure out what kind of not beanie he wears. So you got him, and from there you eventually get the intellectual dark web, the IDW, and so you get him.
You're right. He's Ashkenazi. You're right.
Thank you. So you get him, you get Peterson, you get Dave Rubin, and Dave Rubin I followed when he was banned on the Turks, because I used to watch the Turks, and then they blasted him, and because he started questioning things too, all of a sudden he went from being everyone's gay best friend to a bundle of sticks overnight, and I was like, what are you guys doing? Noticing the attack and this immune response.
You have to excommunicate every bad idea, essentially, is what you're following.
Yeah. You can't have any disagreement. You can't have any questions about anything whatsoever. And I noticed this consistently. And then the IDW came along, and over the course of the next few years, I had shifted pretty hard. I voted for Trump. I never regretted my decision. Meanwhile, everyone was still crying, "Oh no, how could Bernie do this to us?" And then you get to the next election, and they're like, "I can't." My favorite part is I was petty enough to look up one of my best friends growing up. He's a tranny now, and
he's a what?
He's a tranny.
Oh no.
Oh, you think that? You think that's a soft response, man. Like one day I click his profile and he's a she, and I'm like, what happened to you?
Oh no.
He doesn't even look good.
Well, that's the joke. It's very you cannot, no matter how hard you try, hide who you are. And I think people try super duper hard in all walks of life, whether you're trying to exude the idea that you are like a rich person or like you're this or that, and the idea that you could be a he to a she is just that next level of like, I'm gonna hide who I am by becoming this, and it never works. Like, you can't hide who you are. You can try as hard as you want, it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was petty enough one day after him, and like, this is after that excommunication, but I went to go check his profile after the 2020 the 2020 moment where Bernie was like, "I'm giving up. I'm gonna let them take over," and his like exact post was something along the lines of, "I can't believe we're going to watch Bernie do this again." And it's just like, I tried telling all of you 4 or 5 years ago, Bernie is a snake, and I went to Trump, and I never looked back. And it's funny to go from where I was like Reddit-tiered atheist, Reddit-brained atheist, to like unapologetically MAGA Roman Catholic. It's such a stark difference, and it's funny because the scientific method got me here.
So what led you to specifically Catholic? Because clearly you grew up in a Christian household to a degree. And which form of Christianity? Non-denom, just loosely Christian?
I think non-denominational is the best way to describe the household, because I actually I had a conversation with my mother a day or two ago about a bunch of things, trying to correct information, because a lot of her information about Catholicism comes from non-Catholic sources. So when
as do most Protestants.
Yeah. And when it comes to knowledge of the Catholic faith, church, history, all of it, I'm retarded. I don't know. I don't know anything. And I was correcting a lot of information just on that. Just to give an example, it's like I was correcting information like the Catholic Church is not the one that suppressed information or knowledge for people throughout the first like millennia or two, like that didn't, or the first millennia or a half, like that didn't happen. The Catholic Church never said you cannot learn from the Bible or anything. And there are
Correct.
there's some deep-seated beliefs where she's just like, no, I don't quite believe that. It's like, all right, Ma, I'm telling you history. I'm not here to argue with you. I've always spoken straight. This is straight. So um,
I know
during
most people that attend a mass for the first time are shocked when they hear, if you go to a Novus Ordo, you hear first reading, second reading, and then the gospel, and it's like you literally just heard three pieces from the Bible. Like
yeah,
you are literally hearing the Bible read to you at mass, and they're
there,
always shocked.
there's actually I'm forgetting the exact word, but there's a way to help explain it. I came up recently with that I came up with explaining to a number of my followers. Shadow here in the chat is one of them. He's Methodist and he's been going to Catholic churches because he's hoping to convert or at least join OCIA soon. Same thing goes with my buddy Fogg. He's another one of my followers in the Discord, and one of the comparison I gave, which we can get to in a little bit, because I know you wanted to bring that up, was there are examples of how to explain why the Catholic Church is not the established understanding of Scripture is the correct way of understanding it. And coming from my background and using science and math as the parallel, that the Catholic Church is the academic institution that already has the science figured out.
Yep, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So we can get onto that in a little bit, because I know we'll round back to it.
We will. It's part of what I wanted to bring up about the foundation of the New Atheist movement.
Yeah. So just to finish the point real quick, during that transition over the next few years, I came to know my wife, and I met her at that gaming cafe, and one day she slipped a green spatula in my wallet, and here I am.
A green spatula.
I like to call the sepal. What are they called? There's green. There's brown. The green one was for conversion.
Is it the scapular?
Scapular, yeah. I always
okay.
I always call it spatula just as
okay. I was like, wait a second.
I also forget that it's called scapular. So yeah, she slipped one of those into my wallet, and all of a sudden I was brainwashed, and here I am.
So do you wear the green one, or do you wear one at all, or?
I don't wear one. It's always in my wallet. It hasn't actually come out of. So I had my old wallet. My old wallet was destroyed, and this one I got. It's a genuine leather. Don't tread on me one, which was hilarious. So it's been in here since, and that's been several years. And I always have my wallet either next to me or on me, and when I'm out, so I always have it with me.
I was gonna say, because I do wear the brown scapular. I've discussed this on a different podcast.
Is that what you're wearing right now?
Am I wearing it right now?
Yeah. Is that what I see? Okay. I thought I recognized it. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's cool about this one is like one of the local deacons, his wife makes them, and they actually have like a rosary built into the, it's like double Protestant negative, right? It's got a rosary built into the scapular, which is cool.
Yeah, I got you.
So like if you don't have a rosary on you got your scapular that's also a rosary, and you can just whip it out and do the rosary. That's probably not usually a term people use when they're talking about the rosary. You can just whip it out and do the rosary. That's probably not a sentence that usually gets uttered, but here we are.
Yeah, especially in the context, because you always want to be respectful of mom.
Right. Anyway, as long as you don't have an Oedipus complex, you should be okay saying that. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so foundationally, the Catholic Church made sense to you from your perspective, given all of the things that had happened to you prior to, basically. That was what led to your conversion to Catholicism.
One of the elements that I came to conclude was there is a level of consistency. and not even a level. There just is consistency. So you and I know this as the fullness of truth. Everything has already been hammered out. All of the heresies. We've had saints throw hands over these arguments, right? Like
Saint Nicholas smacking Arius across the face. Yes,
exactly. I really like to think about, like, every time I get like, if you're gonna piss me off for Christmas, I'm just like, ho ho ho. Remember, these hands are made to eat for everyone. But the the I understood very quickly with the political realm, that people can have disagreements at the micro level. So the individuals, like you and I, we can have our disagreements. Like Saint Jerome, he didn't agree with the Vulgate and everything when he was commanded to write the Vulgate, but he still did. And as an individual,
he had some very specific commentaries on the Vulgate.
Yeah, but he still ended up writing it because he respected the authority, and he wasn't going to step out of bounds and cause too many issues. When the comparisons happen in the science world, or even politically, if there is truth behind it, it will be exposed in time. Because whether it's, somebody making a comment about how things are in their local area, like theft and everything, poverty, yada yada yada, all the way up to corruption at the highest level. We see this right now with Ilhan Omar and her whole district, because James O'Keefe just exposed, one Muslim can walk in and vouch for 8 other people. So you have 9 votes without any ID or anything. So there's examples there, and it brings up a consistency of inconsistency. So there's lies and everything else behind all of it. And in the science realm, you can have people who learn something, and until it is replicated in a lab, it's not necessarily true. It's just a possibility. It's a hypothesis. Right. But if it can be replicated, it can be taken in as objectively true. We can do this, so we'll do, this is now confirmed. The problems I found when arguing against Catholicism, and not just Catholicism, honestly, I didn't know anything about it, because because my wife grew up, she's cradle Catholic. Her father's a deacon. And so I have, that's why I like to reference her as my pocket Catholic, in case I ever have a question I need answered. I have either her or you on speed dial.
Yeah, him and I are friends outside of this internet space, just for the record.
Yeah. So if I ever have a question, I can either call him or talk to my wife. And I found real fast that a lot of the information what I knew turned out to be completely wrong. But everything that I was arguing or had argued had already been concluded. So there was a consistency of, in, 7 years, it'll officially be 2,000 years since Christ, that has hammered all of this out. None of our arguments are new. None of the heresies that people are rediscovering have never been heard before. Right. And so that level of consistency from the church is incredible, because you have the Catechism, you have the Church Fathers, the Didache, and then you have all the apologists. And even if the apologists are wrong, the church is not, because it's already figured it out. And in my observations of everyone, I found out real fast that nobody actually stood on consistency. Humility doesn't exist in that world. It's a far-flung afterthought. Sam Harris, to go back to that. So I mentioned the Ben Affleck thing. Sam Harris was confronted by Ben Affleck about Islam, and Ben was just like, "Oh, this is racist. It's xenophobic," and blah blah blah. And Harris calmly was responding at the time, "No, we have evidence their IQs are low, and this is because of inbreeding, and this is allowed in the Quran because Hitchens himself specifically brought up a lot of counters against Islam. He was the one, 10, 15 years ago or whatever it was now, he's the one who called out that Islamophobia was going to be used as some nonsense word to try and shut down conversations. It's going to happen, and he predicted it because he wasn't a total idiot. And now, infamously, Sam Harris is so insane you can't listen to him because he at one point he went on the Trigonometry podcast with Constantine, and he said that Sam Harris, who was one of the four atheists of or four horsemen of atheism, this great intellect, all this other stuff, actually said it didn't matter if Hunter Biden had bodies in his basement. Trump is the real threat.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm done with you. Like, dusted my sandals and moved on because I knew that I had graduated from him, and it continued to be so many other people, which is such a shame.
Honestly, even if Trump is a threat, Hunter having bodies in his basement would be a threat as well. It's the stupidest line of reasoning I've ever heard.
There's two ways to attack it. Even in either manner, Biden's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't say, okay, because he's less of a problem than, at least in my mind, than this problem, it negates it. No, that makes no sense. No, if both are problems, then solve both of them.
Exactly.
That's how you know it's a religion or a cult and not an actual proven, what would be the right word? It's not based on facts. It's not based on evidence. It's based on religion, or wokeism or cultism or whatever you want to choose to describe it. It's not based on any factual evidence.
Yeah, it's zealotry.
Exactly.
It is ironically the same. We're about to get to the moral thing that you wanted to talk about, because I have an answer to this too. But
let's hear yours first, and then I'll bring you to where I'm at.
Okay. It may complement what you're about to bring up. My conclusion, which is something that I've brought up before on my stream, is there are because you and I believe that it is just everything is evil. It is a corruption and perversion of everything that is good. So everything that is Christian. It is what I call the 10 anti-commandments. And at the number one, which answers like everything, it has fit this mold, which I haven't really had others push back against, because I haven't brought the idea out to too many outside of the people who listen to me. The first commandment is, I am the Lord your revolution. You shall have no other narrative but me.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate to how things get handled. And the dogmas change, which is the total antithetical to the church. Totally antithetical to the church, where the church has dogmas and they don't change, and they shall never change. That's why they're dogmas.
Yes.
The left changes the dogma to fit the narrative.
The narrative must always push forward the revolution. It has to, because the revolution, all of the, I've said it before, all of the chaos that we see is by design. It is meant to go this way. You cannot have anything more than the revolution, and if you step out of your position and you go against it, that is excommunicable. That's what I was, and so many others, Amal Ebanobi or Gothics TV, myself, Rose, not Dawson, I forget her name. It's some sweet gal on Twitter that I came across years ago.
Rose Gamgee?
No.
Okay.
It's Rose something.
Because there is like a Rose Gamgee on there that I think I follow, but she's Catholic, so probably not her.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, but they're Tim Pool and all of these, like the vast majority of the political commentators that are quote unquote right wing now are moderates. Like,
Well, anybody who tested the evidence basically became a right wing.
exactly, and everybody shifted so far over because everybody got excommunicated. Because as Tim has said, you know, I didn't leave the left left me.
Yeah, he was excommunicated, like you said.
Yeah,
They basically
exactly.
swore him off. They said, "You're gone."
So you end up getting the anti. So you have the anti commandments. Thou shalt dishonor your mother and father. We see this with the attacking against your parents, because the trans are always, get away from your parents, come to me, I will talk to you, yada yada yada.
Well, now it's the no contact thing.
Exactly. Thou shalt kill. I mean, we saw that with Charlie. Rest in peace.
And abortion.
And abortion, yeah, and I got another one with that, but I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But there's all of these. There's all of the, like, every commandment has been flipped. Thou shalt
steal. Thou shalt
steal. Thou shalt murder. Thou shalt bear false witness. Because this happens all the time. It is the exact opposite of everything. It fits the mold perfectly. But the one that really irks me the most, and I haven't figured out an exact comparison for the cross necessarily, but I think it fits the altar best, because the altar of sacrifice is the one that, to me, is arguably the most corrupted, because the altar of sacrifice is taken literally. Instead of us going and wanting to be with Christ during Mass and our representation of the sacrifice and taking part in it, they put you up there. You are the sacrifice. So this is where you get the abortion. This is where you get the fake meats and the horrible health. And we have to sacrifice fossil fuels and kill countless millions, if not billions, across the planet, because we have to do this.
Yeah.
The altar of sacrifice has become a sacrifice for me rather than of me.
It's the Malthusian ideology.
Yeah.
Do you know what Malthusian's ideology is?
I'm sorry. I was saying to what Lauren said. That is correct. Go ahead and explain that. I am unaware.
Malthus was an ideologue in the 1800s who basically said, and this is basically what the left has prescribed since he proposed this, was that the population would increase exponentially to the point where the planet could not support people with resources, and that the finite number of resources would be the limitation for how many people could exist on the planet. And if our population became too large, then the planet would lay waste and become basically all the sci-fi apocalyptic shows where the planet has no resources and people are dying.
Mm-hmm.
This was the nightmare the left invented, essentially, with no evidence, no real evidence to prove it. And they subscribe to it to this day. They still believe in Malthusian population control, which supports the idea that if we lower the population, then the number of resources we have will support the population that exists. And that's why they pushed for...
It is literally Thanos.
Yeah, exactly. Thanos is the ultimate version of Malthusian population control. That's true. You're right. I didn't even think about that. I hadn't put that together.
Yep.
But if you ever look it up, Tim Pool talked about it quite a bit, which is why I looked him up. Because I used to be an avid Tim Pool watcher, listener, whatever you want to call it.
And, I read his podcast too.
You can download the transcripts. Yeah. I don't know anybody that does that, but you could absolutely do that. But yeah, the Malthusian ideology that the left subscribes to. It's at the heart of what Bill Gates does. It's at the heart of many world leaders, especially China, in the communist movement. Like, if we have too many people, we can't support them, and thus, in order to maintain our resources and our quality of life, we must reduce the population. But what they don't realize is when you reduce population, well, you can't take care of the population that you have. You can't produce as many resources as you have. You can't create enough, like the number of people that exist, invent new ways for more people to exist.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like because there's more people we can't do anything. That's not how it's ever in the history of the world. When there are more people, what do? We invent new ways to support those people. It's just silly.
The greatest irony, I think, about everything on the political left side is they claim to want a Star Trek future and have no idea how to create it, because they're actually the ones that will lead to the downfall of man before the Star Trek future gets figured out.
Oh yeah. Yep. Just to highlight that comment, this is the one he was responding to, the opposite of dying to oneself, which is the Christian perspective of what we need to do.
Yeah.
We sacrifice our own needs and wants in order to do what needs to be done for the Christian virtue. And then the only thing I know about Tim Pool is that he's really insecure about his lack of hair, which is why I got the nickname Beanie. Actually, funny story, I heard him explain why he wears a beanie, and it actually makes sense because I've done the same thing. If you wear a beanie on a stream and then you go out in public with no beanie on, no one recognizes you, period. Not a single person. And I tested this theory because I've worn a beanie on this podcast since it started. And I went to a conference with creators that I had interviewed on this podcast, and no one recognized me. Not a single person.
I think you mentioned this in the last. It wasn't the last guy you interviewed. It was one before that. I think
it was probably with Jim Pine, probably Jim Pine.
Yeah, it was probably him. It was like Thursday or Friday or something like that. And you mentioned this, and I was like, oh yeah, that's funny because like Henry Cavill did that exact same thing. He took off the suit and took off the glasses and just walked in the middle of Times Square, even though his face was on a billboard like 80 feet high, and he was just standing there on the corner. Nobody noticed him.
He was testing the Superman hypothesis.
Exactly.
You should put a beanie on your Sprite and test the theory. That's funny.
All right, just put it over the bandana.
So I like your thought process of the corruption of the commandments. That makes sense. That's a good idea. However, I've been reading this book. I interviewed a Dr. E. Michael Jones, and I'm not going to say I agree with every single thing he says all the time. But his books are fantastic, and they kind of dispel some narratives that we've been taught since we were kids. And one of the things I really enjoyed reading, I'm still in the middle of reading, is Logos Rising, which discusses the separation and basically the history of how the Logos, which in English is like the Word, which is the Word made flesh, which is Jesus. Mm-hmm. How when you separate the Logos from things, you end up with a corruption of them. So, for example, philosophy. Philosophy is actually what drives most science. It's weird when you think about it that way, but like philosophy is what leads to most of the discoveries in science. It's the foundational aspect of how we approach science is philosophy. When philosophy and Logos go their separate ways, we end up with some of the most horrific experiments that have ever existed. And just flat out, think about what the Nazis were doing in World War II, some of the experiments they ran. Mm-hmm. There is a clear lack of the Christian worldview in some of the experiments the Nazis were doing. And throughout history, the same problem. Like when you do a social experiment without the Christian ideal, the Christian message in it, what happens? Tons of people die. The communist message is an anti-Christian message. This is fundamentally flawed when you apply it to humanity. And in Logos Rising, he always says Logos when I interviewed. It threw me off because I always pronounce it Logos.
Okay.
And he says Logos. It threw me off. But so now I kind of interchange them when I speak. But fundamentally, when you try to reduce philosophy to a science without God, it doesn't work. It just flat out doesn't. And then that influences the approaches of science.
What I came to find in
I'm not saying that every single Nazi was not Christian, but inherently I've read books that basically prove the Nazi ideals were absolutely not Christian.
Yeah.
The Pope at the time was actively involved in multiple plots to assassinate Hitler. That's what I will say. And I know that for a fact. I've looked through the sources.
Nice. Yeah, so the next time somebody tells me, what would Jesus do? I'll tell them, no, what would the Pope do? And
Surprisingly, he's not a saint. Pope Pius XII is not up for sainthood because so many people associated him as an anti-Semite, even though none of that was true. And he actually was actively in plots to assassinate Hitler. But nobody wants to know that. They want the Catholic Church to be just
that's
bad,
so funny
bad
too, because
guys.
isn't you said it was Pope Pius XII, right?
Yeah, he was the Pope during World War II.
I'm pretty sure that's the one who said we don't recognize Israel, but we'll go there with rosaries and water to baptize.
That was Pope Pius X.
Oh, that was the 10th? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he was responding to, oh gosh, it starts with an H, might be Herzog. I don't know. The guy was asking for the Catholic Church's support for Israel, and he basically responded, "We do not recognize the Jews. They do not recognize Christ." That's basically his response.
Okay.
We don't recognize the Jewish ownership of Israel or something along those lines because the Jews don't recognize the ownership of Christ, or the kingship of Christ. That was something to those. Yeah.
Pope Pius XI was also during World War II.
That sounds correct. I think it went. So the 10th was the early 1900s. Then you get several popes, and then you get the 11th, then John the 23rd, then Pope Pius the 12th. And Pope Pius the 12th, actually, it's funny. You could not have picked a more anti-Hitler pope than Pope Pius the 12th, because before he was the pope, he was writing like letters about how bad Hitler was to like the general German population. And then he ended up becoming the Fuhrer anyways.
Gotcha.
No, or maybe they might have been 11 and 12 back to back. It might be 11, 12, then John. No, yeah, John the 23rd opened the Second Vatican Council. So yeah, you're right. I think it was 12, then John. Yeah, you're right, because John was involved with Pius XII during World War II doing some cool stuff. You're right. Your wife is correct. Or I'm sorry, Lauren is correct.
So,
but you've already identified her as in the chat, correct, as your wife?
On your chat.
Okay. I just want to make sure. That I'm not like outing some information that wasn't supposed to be outed or something.
As long as it doesn't get back to the main chat, I guess. But we'll cross that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So one of the problems I ran into with a lot of the way science is used, the way I ran into a lot of the issue with the way science is used has science, for those who do not know, science was originally the philosophy of nature, and that's how it used to be. It was never about proving or disproving God. It was about trying to figure out how God made the world work. So, it wasn't. It was never with the disconnect of just looking at water as it is, a liquid, a solid, a gas, ice, air and water, yada, yada, yada. It was always about asking the question of how did you make this work? Because this is a wondrous thing, I'm reminded of what's his name? Tony Robinson? I think it's Tony Robinson. Yeah, I think it's Tony Robinson, the guy who likes to help people out. And he was talking about on a podcast how there's two people, and it was because the guy was asking, the interviewer was asking about the conversation was something around being damned to hell, and Tony Robinson brought up this comparison of, okay, you have two kids or two people, and one person complains nonstop. Screw these ants and they're biting me all over the place, and oh man, it's so hot in here. I hate it, and I'm sweaty, swamp ass. Like, thanks God, this sucks. And then you have the other person who's just like, man, it's so hot out here. I can take my shirt off and I can enjoy the sun. It's glorious, and all these little ants. It's crazy how good they work together, and I really like look at what they're doing. They're so small, and yet they can accomplish so much. And so he was, making the point of, who does God want to actually spend the rest of his life with?
Yeah.
Like who do you want it? Who would you rather hang out with? The guy who's not complaining about everything, or the guy who is complaining about everything? So when you when you remove and separate things in this, logos comparison, it is it's to remove the philosophy of asking questions about the why or the how, and now just trying to figure out how it works, rather than how did you make this work. You start to separate things, as I'm sure he explained in the book, and now it's starting to come back in the middle and meet, but it's not a union, it's clash.
Yeah.
And that's what I noticed, because science is no longer science. It's not a tool to figure out how things work. Now it's an attack against God. And
it's basically become scientism.
Yeah,
science.
Exactly. Everything has to have, especially in like the media landscape, everything has a political tilt to it now.
Yep.
And it's practically impossible to have a genuine dialogue. I was always about asking questions and trying to get an answer, but the problem is I almost never got a genuine answer from people. What I would get now, especially, is, oh well, this can't be true because it doesn't fit inside my scientific box.
Yep.
And if God doesn't fit inside the box, then God doesn't exist, because he's not in the box, which has always been which has become very funny to me, because have you ever heard the question about the boulder? Can God create it's a question that's meant to test the limits of God, and it's a question of, can God? So the question is, can God create a rock that he himself cannot lift?
Can God create a rock that he himself cannot lift?
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of a paradoxical question, but I mean, God can basically do whatever he wants. He just chooses to give us the free will to love him or not.
So well, that's one of the first problems, is that it fundamentally misunderstands God, because
Right.
Again, if it doesn't fit inside, if God does not fit inside the box, then it cannot exist, because that's the model.
That's what they try to claim, right? That's the idea.
Effectively, yeah. That's kind of how, like, every atheist and every secularist, or just any non-Christian,
they want to define God, but we don't even try to define what God can and cannot do. We just know that God has done what he has done and has made the promises he has made.
Yeah, so the question is fundamentally flawed on a multitude of levels, because God is love, and that's not the point of God. So addressing it as though it's like a death battle argument of like Goku versus Superman or something, it's nonsensical.
Well, if you just go to the temptation of the devil to Jesus in the desert, when he's like, well, you can jump down here and God will save your body, essentially. Or why don't you just make these rocks into bread, or do this or do that? And it's like Satan is trying to tempt him with that, like, boxing, like, idea that Jesus needs the bread, or that he needs the salvation of God to keep him from dying, jumping off the cliff. Satan is testing him with these types of questions. It's kind of funny that the atheists, in a roundabout way, are asking the same questions of Christians today.
Well, as I said, all of the heresies and everything have already been argued. We're just repeating the same mistakes of the past, because history rhymes. Um, so there's that issue of the question, and then there's the assumption that somehow they know God when when, as I learned, especially, it's like you go and ask a Christian of any kind to define God, and they're like, it's like that's the best answer you're going to get because we can't define anything about God. We just know that He can. Can He do it? Yes. Like that's just the answer.
But will He do it? No, because
Yeah.
He doesn't do these types of things. Like those types of things that He would like if He were to start doing the things that we ask Him to do that are impossible for humans to do all the time, we'd have a non-logical world, and it would just make everything kind of chaotic. And God is not chaos; God is order.
Yeah, and so the question is effectively a romantic way of trying to sound really smart by trapping somebody in a checkmate, a logical checkmate. That's the idea. If the answer is that God can create a stone, then God has limits because He has limits on what He can do through His own power. If God cannot create a stone, He cannot lift. Then
He's not all powerful.
Then He's not all powerful because He cannot do something that exceeds even Himself. Ergo, there's another limit, and so God cannot be omnipotent. It cannot be omnipotent. And
Yep.
So it's trying to be a logical trap, but again, it completely misunderstands what God is or God's intentions, and it even presumes to know God's intentions and plans. Yep. So the question is fundamentally flawed, and because it has no answer, there is no answer. Because God can also limit Himself, as we saw with Christ. So if we want to take it literally and just tamper, play around with some of the ideas, I'm pretty sure Christ couldn't bench 2 plates, right? Not like that was the goal. Well, I mean, the Korean Jesus maybe he could. I love those memes.
You should see the Chad Chin Jesus in my marital prayers for the everyday book. I'll send you a picture of it. It's like, whoa, Mr. Studio Girl is being depicted as Jesus here. What the heck?
I love all of those memes. I need to find it because they wrote the whole thing, but they made the Bro Bible.
Huh.
And it's just a bunch of quotes. It's just scripture from the Bible, just made into like Jim Bro memes, like dost thou, yea verily, he looked upon the apostles and asked, dost thou even hoisteth, brethren? Like his first miracle was turning water into whey.
Water into whey.
There's an entire prayer. Like they did like all of that. I think they did the Nicene Creed. It's like I will finish my reps. It's like it's great. I need to find it, and that'll be the one, that'll be like the Bible I finish all the way through. But yeah, no, I always ran into, or I noticed the issue of the fundamental use of Christianity, or of science, to battle Christianity. Yep. Rather than trying to understand things. And as I was discussing with my wife yesterday, actually, because we got onto the subject, because I was listening to an old Matt Fradd episode where he debated Dennis Prager on pornography.
He just reposted that too.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm referencing, because I hadn't seen it before, and I gotta say, man, my view of Prager tanked after that one.
Yeah,
because of how he just devolved to whataboutisms. I couldn't believe.
Well, I would also say a prayer for Dennis Prager because of his. Have you seen what condition he's in these days?
Oh yeah, he's 50% chair now. I know.
Yeah, I can't believe. And I can't remember. Did he fall or did he get attacked?
I think he had an issue that they were looking at, and it got worse.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna have to look that up
I
later.
think that's what happened. Um,
Because my goodness, holy cow! He used to be such a profound speaker, and I just like I'm not saying that I agree with him, but man, as far as like somebody with a relatively good set of morals speaking to the youth, like Dennis Prager was with it, and he was pretty good.
yeah, yeah, he was
He was like a Jordan Peterson type. I mean, it was like just a
he's
general morality, trying to give the youth something that's more timeless than, hey, you should go steal from the 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee for no money. It was much better than that.
he's one of the two internet fathers that's basically been removed.
Yeah.
Like, between him and Peterson, and their two voices that are absolutely needed. I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater, because
They have good things that have come from them.
oh yeah.
It doesn't mean I agree with everything they've said or everything they've done,
Exactly.
or even think they have the best moral code on the internet. But they built platforms that gave people with no idea what they should be doing something to look at and strive for. And then they led a lot of people to the Catholic Church indirectly.
Yes. Yeah. 12 Rules for Life. It was one of the first books I actually sat through and read all the way through, and it is unironically something that changed my life, and for the better. So it's a shame that they're not around right now, because people definitely need them. But
well, again, I would argue when you look at what he's saying about porno, like their work, the body of work that exists on the internet, I think is what they needed to put out. And even though I don't wish anybody to be removed for what's happened to either of them, obviously.
yeah,
I don't know that it's like the Harvey Dent question. If you're on the internet long enough, will you eventually start saying things you shouldn't be? You know what I mean? And I would question whether, because Jordan Peterson is now like, he went on that Jubilee interview. Oh, I'm not actually a Christian. It's like, you're doing more harm now saying stuff like that. And then like with Prager, like arguing for pornography, like, oh, that's kind of harmful. We probably shouldn't. This is not something I want to hear from Dennis Prager. Does that make sense?
and this was an old video too, but for it to pop up now, it's just like, why are these things coming out? Because like, it's really funny to maybe it is just pure coincidence, but to see all the things that have come out now, or have started to pop up, that has damaged their uh, the way people view them.
Their credibility. Their credibility is taking a hit. Like for example, I although I'm not saying that I 100% agree with his opinion on Nick Fuentes, and I'm not even like the biggest fan of Nick Fuentes. I like some of the things he says, and some of his clips make sense. And I've watched a few of his streams, especially the post Charlie Kirk stream he did, which was it was a well put together stream. It's one of the only ones I've watched start to finish of his. But him coming out and calling him a rat for not supporting Israel was just wild. Like, why is Jordan Peterson stepping into this conversation? It was just so odd and he did it in a haiku of all things. Like, like why are we responding with like a haiku essentially? Disowning a right-wing commentator. It was just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And then he kept doing it. It was like very like weirdly poetic tweets, and I was like, "What the heck are we doing?"
That's why a lot of people think someone else is running the account, because he's made a lot of like anti-Catholic comments and attacks, and it's like, your wife is Catholic. What are you doing?
I know, it's just so weird.
Yeah, so, it doesn't make any sense. At least
speaking of prolific Catholic writers, did you know that the writer of this series is a fallen away Catholic, or was a fallen away Catholic?
Oh, really? I didn't know about that about Herbert.
Yeah, Herbert was an Irish Catholic immigrant, or his family was immigrants from Ireland, one or the other.
Okay.
And he fell away from Catholicism, but it clearly left an imprint on him, because there's a lot of Catholic themes going on in the books. One of the things that's consistent, though, is that a lot of the commentary on the Fremen is more of a commentary on the Middle East, which totally was lost in the Denis Villeneuve movies, because the Fremen almost become weirdly messianic uh, almost like Messianic Jews. It was really strange. If you know what a Messianic Jew is, it's like what is that author that did Return of the Gods? Jonathan Cahn, I think is his name. But he makes Paul into almost like Lawrence of Arabia. But then he's not saving the Muslims during World War II from the British government trying to take their land. He's actually
using them,
making them into like an infinite jihad across space, and then the movement moves past him, and it is kind of a commentary on Muhammad. But then the movie loses that by the way they introduce the Fremen, which are not intended to be a female or matriarchal society or an egalitarian society, which is kind of how the movie portrays them. But instead, they're very patriarchal, and women are actually property in the books, which is even weirder. Like, so we've gone from like very like Muslim oriented commentary to an egalitarian tribal society, which is just so strange.
Well, all of that all of that kind of shift in politics in the real world, because just like as I mentioned before, Hitchens called the Islamophobia thing from 10 20 years before his death, the way everything has shifted to defend Islam. And it's weird because when you look at it in hindsight, you think, no, they've kind of, it's weird because they've already kind of been queued up as a weapon for like 20 years now, 30 years. Because it was always, we're all, well, America's always bombing them, and that's why they're always attacking. And it's like, okay, but they've been doing this for 1,400 years. Because something like when I was having the conversation with my mom, as Lauren pointed out in the chat here, the Islam response, because a lot of what we were discussing, the conversation.
Well, no, she misspelled Psalm response for the Mass.
Oh.
I just kept using that because it was funny. Because don't forget, the Islam response has worked for most of this conversation.
Oh yeah,
but she meant Psalm.
That's even funnier. But the conversation originally started. It originally started on how. So it started with politician, because my mom was watching a short about some politician here who was wearing a niqab. No, sorry, it was just a hijab. It wasn't the full garment, and she was wondering why. And then I brought up, well, Islam is in alignment with communists because the common goal is to destroy the West, and destroying the West is actually, ironically, or is not ironically, is a stated mission goal by Jews in the world. And then I started getting into the Talmud and, lies like, Joseph was a 90-year-old pedophile and Mother Mary was a 12-year-old harlot.
Hold on. Do you mean the actual, like the Jewish Talmud, or are we talking about? Okay, so you are okay. I wanted to make sure we were
okay. Yes. The Babylonian Talmud, the Mishnah Torah.
You just went from Islam to Talmud. I wanted to make sure we were clear.
I was trying to say the conversation started with the Islamic politician, the white liberal pretending to be jihadist or whatever, to what Islam is in alignment with, which is communism. The common goal: destroy the West. That goal comes from the Jews. The Jews have stated, numerous rabbi all over the internet have said that the West shall fall because of what they've done to us, blah, blah, blah. And then I got onto the Talmud and was explaining where a lot of the lies that Muslims and atheists and everyone repeat actually comes from, which is the Babylonian Talmud and the Mishnah Torah, where, Father Joseph was a 90-year-old pedophile. Mother Mary was a 12-year-old whore, and Christ is forever tormented in a boiling pit of feces in hell.
Yep, that's what the Talmud says.
She had no idea that this was a thing, and it stunned her. I was like, "Yeah, Ma, this is the kind of evil that, unfortunately, a great many Jews actually operate by, because so many of them are rabbinic.
Yep.
They are Talmudic. They follow the Talmud and its teachings. Finding a Jew today who operates exclusively by the Tanakh and nothing else is like finding a non-explosive Muslim. Like it's like
Well, no. I went to school in Dearborn. There's plenty of secular Muslims. There's plenty of them.
oh yeah, well the
There's a
apostasy.
lot of extremists there too. Like you're talking like probably about 50-50 with radical Islam and just your standard secular Muslim. But the problem is that even like secular, well, actually no, actually this is probably fundamentally what is different between secular Muslims, secular Jews, and secular Christians.
Okay.
Secular Christians often side with the Jews or the Muslims, which is so strange because secular Muslims and secular Jews usually default back to their own religious or ethnic backgrounds, and
Uh,
they support those.
so do you know who David Wood is?
I do. I know a lot about him to the point where I refuse to listen to him. But tell me what you're going to say,
Oh,
anyways.
okay, okay. So him and his buddies, so Michael Jones, yeah, Michael Jones. He so inspiring philosophy and God logic. That's Avery. All of these guys have been arguing against Islam and have been trying to help push so they're constantly destroying arguments of Islam and showing the total inconsistencies, the contradictions, all of it, right? um,
Oh yeah, Islam can't survive unless it's in an authoritative structure that supports it.
Yes, exactly. Which is exactly why I brought up the point to my mother and then to you about how the common goal is to destroy the West because
Yep.
it can't exist outside of a vacuum. Like all the woke politics only exist because life is so good for leftists that they can't figure out anything to complain about. So
So they
because
subscribe to the woke ideology.
well, exactly. It was a really funny thing too because my my wife and I it was this was the most like how do we describe it? This was the most normal thing my wife and I ever actually did. I don't really trust Wikipedia like as far as I could throw my computer. When I was reviewing The Bride, which was the remake that atrocious feminist communist revisioning of the Frankenstein story with the bride. They we it,
You mean Frankenstein's Bride or whatever the heck that's called?
yeah, no, it's just called The Bride exclamation mark. Um dude, it's awful. The movie just has 2 + 2 = 5 in graffitied in the background. It
Oh
made
my
no
goodness.
sense. It's a complete mess. In the research for it, because I didn't know as much about Mary Shelley as I thought I did. I wanted to go through and research because I try to be as consistent as I can with things. And I did learn that she was, in fact, a feminist. And her mother was actually the one who basically established what would become feminism.
Yeah, to a degree, yes, she was very involved. And
Yeah.
then I think if I remember correctly, some lineage from that as well survived to influence Frank Baum, which if you don't know who that is, Google the Wizard of Oz.
That's funny. Um,
I think they were connected too.
uh, but the fact that feminism ended up uh, coming from her mother, and then in it precedes uh, Marx by like 100 years, 80
Yeah.
years, something like that. So it's funny it was funny for us to learn that feminism predates communism like proper, right? And that because I've always had this debate in my head of like which one is the greater evil, which one yada yada yada, and I would actually probably argue at this point that it is genuinely feminism because
Feminism is
the,
worse. Feminism. Oh my gosh, what's
yeah,
feminism? Oh geez, like immunism to feminism. That might actually be a good thing.
yeah, so the extreme emasculation of the world has led to so many of the problems. And when you look at
Yep.
the communist nonsense, at its core, it is feminist. because it's about it's about authoritarian inclusion.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
You are going to be a part of this family, and you are going to like it. Now go to your room and do your chores.
Yep.
Tell me that's not a gulag.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that feminism does is it empowers the authoritarian of a woman in each household. Because once feminism has staked its claim on the family,
Mm-hmm.
if you try to combat it, well, what is society ingrained? Now they have essentially no fault divorce for women, and they get the kids, they get half your money, they get everything. So like if you fight back against feminism in your own family, you're gonna suffer. At least that was what most men understood.
Yes. And so when we when I say it was the most normal thing, it was the most normie thing we ever did, which was just read through all of the people involved in the crazy life that she ended up living, Mary Shelley, because the one dude, the dude that she started seeing was banging like two of her friends, and they went on like a cross Europe trip, moving in and hanging out with friends who were all sleeping with each
Oh
other.
yeah, Mary Shelley's husband was horrible, and the reason she's Mary Shelley is because of her husband. That was his last name.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild how just like it is kind of funny, and in a way kind of comforting, because the same kind of so it's not a good thing that they were committing the same kind of heinous evils that people are today, which is what the Bible has warned about for
Yeah.
for over almost 2 millennia now. But it's also kind of comforting that our same kind of jokes and humor and like the ability to get along has also been the same for that same amount of time. So it's a little comforting in all of the darkness there. Um, but I I I've seen so many of these problems come up with the hyper feminization of everything,
Yeah.
and everything is under the communist umbrella, and with the way Islam operates, it ironically is pushing towards a a switch. It's not a gradual turn, like turning a knob or moving a lever. It's flipping a light switch. You are free and living your feminist life and happy and go lucky, and now you're getting beat because you decided to question your husband. Because that's
That's
it.
abuse. Yeah.
Well, it's not abuse when it's commanded by the false prophet, piece of bacon.
Oh, right. Sorry. I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't support that as Catholics at all. That's when people think about the submission of a wife, they think like, oh, it's I will command her to do everything. It's like you don't understand what the man is commanded to do if you think the man is going to just demand things of his wife all the time. The idea of a submissive wife is not that she's submitting to the man's desires at all times of the day, doing everything for him. It's that the man is submitting to Christ. The woman is submitting to the man who should be submitting to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And so that anything that he would demand of her should be what the demands of Christ would be.
And isn't it like 2 or 3 lines down in that same scripture that the man is supposed to submit to his wife?
That's a very deep piece of scripture that requires a theology degree to explain.
But that's one.
It's not mutual submission in the way that you think it is.
Oh yeah. No. I know it's not. I know it's not total mutual submission. There is like the wife is like the man still has the final say generally, but it's not dictatorial.
No, but was Christ dictatorial? I mean, that's what I would ask any man is like, okay, so let's say your wife is a submissive wife in the Christian household. What does that mean? Well, it means that the man is submitting his life to Christ, which means he would die for his family. and therefore the leadership falls on him because he's asked to die and put it all on the line for his family. And then because he's the leader, that demands a level of submission in a Christian household.
Yeah,
Does
sure.
that make sense?
I agree, and I understand. It's
So the man is actually asked to do a lot. If you are asked to, you're asked to die to self. You're asked to, if necessary, be crucified, whether it be allegorically or really actually done. You know, like you're asked to take that on, like take on the cross of Christ and be the man.
yeah. We're it's what did Mike Ditka say? He said this about like the 85 Bears. Is like, we're the Grabowskis. We pick up the pail, kiss the wife, and we go to do the work.
But on top of that, like, so let's say your wife does give you submission, like in the Christian message, in the Christian ideal, then you are also going to be held accountable for what she does on your judgment day. That's something that the man has to deal with. That
I'm gonna use that to lord over her now.
because whether your family
He's watching.
Whether your family gets to heaven or not largely depends on your headship of the family. If you do all the right things that Christ asks of you, and your kids turn out to be schmucks, well, that's not on you. But if you do all the right things that Christ, or you don't do the things Christ asks of you, and your kids turn out to be just horrible human beings, well, then you're going to be judged much more harshly as a father.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just think of that dictatorial aspect of submission. We're not talking about a communist regime. We're talking about a family. And so a family operates very different from a government, although it does still have a king who is the priest, prophet, and king of the family, which is the husband, which means that you can bless all of the members of your family, which is something cool that men should do, including your wife. You can take holy water and bless her every night at bed if you wanted to. That's something that a man can do as the head of the family. These are all cool things I've learned through reading, through scripture, and through various podcasts, although I don't really listen to podcasts anymore, to be honest with you. But the negative aspect is that some people will abuse it, and they will abuse their wives and their children, and that is not something we support as Christians at all. That is the negative, which does not prove the positive false. It just proves what David proves in the Bible. With who much is given, much responsibility comes along with it.
Yeah, if that isn't ironically like the most Christian
Spider-Man
thing,
quote.
Yeah, if that isn't the most ironically Christian thing ever, it's like no matter where you go, you can't get away from it because everything is fundamentally. I like to say I really like to say the submit to Rome thing is like a meme, but it's funny how true that all roads lead to Rome.
Well, the ultimate lack of submission is the Protestants to Rome. Like that's just the ultimate lack of submission. And we are asked to submit to earthly authorities in all temporal matters, unless they go against
obey your
morality.
governors. Yeah.
Right. All right. On another note, I would love to see your review of this, although I found out you don't read.
Oh yeah, I'm illiterate.
But what is so they have really cool audiobooks for these. This is actually not what you need to read. This is a first draft that you had to get lucky enough to purchase. But this is like the antithetical to Dune, where Dune deconstructs the hero, the Messiah figure.
Okay.
This one builds it up throughout the series. And I did interview the author of this series, Christopher Rocchio. He's an awesome writer. And he finished the series. So unlike George R.R. Martin, who will never finish Game of Thrones, Christopher Rocchio has finished the complete series, The Sun Eater, and I highly recommend it to a ton of people.
The Sun Eater. Okay.
Another interesting piece of fiction, since you complain a lot about bad storylines, the Wingfeather Saga. I know we talked about this offline. For anybody who has children, there is a TV series. It's produced by Angel, who, I question the Mormon roots of Angel, but it is what it is. The Wingfeather Saga is Christian, written by a high church Anglican fellow. So kind of like a C.S. Lewis style person. I want to see you review that at some point. I think it'd be a cool series review for you to do.
Yeah, because I know this is something else we wanted to get into. I don't know if you wanted jump to faith and Hollywood and its absence of it now, or if you want to stick
Should
to.
we just jump right to the fact that Hollywood elites love the Kabbalah?
Yeah, we. Yeah.
I was shocked. You just type in like Kabbalah and some Hollywood person, you'll find out like immediately if they believe in the Kabbalah. Like freaking, I think it was Madonna. Madonna went on like what is it?
Some tirade.
I think it was Jimmy Fallon,
Okay.
or it was what's the other Jimmy guy that I don't like?
Not Fallon. I know who you're talking about. Crap.
He used to be like the Man Show.
Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel. He either went on one of those two programs, or maybe it might have even been David Letterman. Honestly, it's that old of a clip. But she goes on and she goes, I believe in the Kabbalah, and I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? You would subscribe to that? Oh, it's like corrupted, like more corrupted, modernistic Judaism is what Kabbalah is essentially. It's like if you mix Zoroastrianism with the Talmud, with like a corrupted, an even more corrupted Talmud, and a Torah that makes no sense, and you end up with Kabbalah. And it's just so weird how many people, especially in Hollywood, subscribe to this weird paganistic version of Judaism.
Well, considering Judaism just is pagan, it's.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but to a degree, yes.
It's really frustrating how there's so many people that when you're paying attention to when you're paying attention to things theologically, and you start to notice little details in movies and shows and whatnot over time, it's no longer coincidence, it's a pattern. The pushing of the trans nonsense onto young kids, or the emasculation of the male hero, the empowerment and upliftment of and protection of the female hero. They can do no wrong. They're able to fight, just as well as men.
Danvers.
Oh, I was thinking about the 355. I don't know if you ever heard of that one. That was from like 20.
The 355.
Yeah, it was a movie from like 2019 or 2020, I want to say. It had Lupita Nyong'o, Jessica Chastain, and a bunch of other women, and it was just meant to be like the female, like Ocean's 11 of spy.
Oh yes, I remember this now.
And so you've got it was so unbelievable because Jessica Chastain is in like 4-inch stiletto heels and a red dress, and she's just manhandling dudes who look like they would gang rape Brock Lesnar. It's just like these guys are massive, and she's just beating them and throwing them over her shoulder and everything. I'm just like, this is insane. Why is this? I wouldn't believe Bond if he did this.
Meanwhile, I don't mind the high heels in Jurassic World because it's intended to be a feminine thing. Even though it makes no sense from the plot aspect.
Which is so funny because you actually can run in high heels, and Bryce Dallas Howard actually did that and proved that you could do it. But that's what I'm talking about with the political lens. Like sometimes you have to, if you're watching something through it, like you gotta like tilt those glasses down to look at it again, before, yeah, exactly. You got to look at it in two different ways. Wow.
No, Taffy's gonna clip that.
you just aged like 50 years.
Guys, I promise I'm still 33. Okay. Still 33.
Yeah. We can, just like a tree, we can tell how old you are by how every ring of the receded hairline.
Oh man, good luck. You'll never see it.
But yeah, it's not coincidence. It's a pattern. We see this all the time, and it's frustrating when people say, "No, you're thinking about it too intently." It's like, no, Matrix Revelation. all of a sudden they both get resurrected out of nowhere, and now Trinity is the one and another one. Masters of the Universe Revelation. Tila becomes some, shaved haired lesbian and blames Adam for dying because Adam died and he had no control over that because he didn't have the sword. The 355, all of the women are beating the crap out of men who are twice their size. The Scarlett Johansson's character in Jurassic World Afterbirth, she emasculates the villain who was actually just a genuinely good man trying to bring heart medicine to the world. Annette and all of the females in the Castlevania series, the two different ones. It's like the male hero, Trevor, is supposed to be the patriarch of the story because it's about the Belmonts fighting Dracula. It's their oath. Well, now Sypha, Trevor's wife, is basically, always good and he's always stupid. Or in Nocturne, the sequel series, Richter is a bumbling moron and a coward, and as she says, turns out the Belmont boy turned out to be useless as fuck, is the exact quote.
Well, it reflects society. I mean, I don't know which one comes first. We got a chicken egg situation here, but a society that protects every immoral decision a woman makes through, whatever means they have to.
Mm-hmm.
It's reflected in the media. I mean, it's exactly the same thing, although the plot armor is different. But like, for example, there was that woman who due to the post stress of what is it called? Oh my goodness.
Traumatic stress disorder?
It was not PTSD. It's postpartum disorder.
Okay.
She went and essentially murdered all three of her kids in a basement while her husband was gone. And I'm not saying I understand exactly what happened here, but before anything comes out, you just have all these women coming out and defending her for doing that. And I'm like, that is the most heinous thing I have heard in a long time, that somebody in cold blood, no matter how insane they were feeling that day, went down and just murdered all their children. And then people are just defending it. And I'm like, she was insane. It's like, she still killed her kids. She's got to live with that the rest of her life. we should not be, like, at the very least, like, if this is like a mental insanity problem, let's not make this the most publicized crime of the century. Let's that should be either buried and in medical annals to be studied for people that are in that field, and that's it, or we should not be defending her, one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
That makes no sense to me. Why are we making a mental disorder justification for doing something heinous like that?
And if you notice the commonality with a lot of things, what ends up happening in almost all of these cases, the judges are women.
Yeah, they're women, or they're like social justice warriors disguised as judges.
Yep.
Or they're, but in a lot of cases, yeah, when they, for example, the Arena Ratskova or whatever, yeah, whatever her name was.
Yeah,
I know Arena was the first name. Yeah, Irina. Yeah, she was a Ukrainian. She was a Ukrainian refugee in America, escaping from Russia, the Russian infiltration of Ukraine, and that's a whole different ballgame of politics I'm not getting into tonight. But she essentially escaped the Russian onslaught of Ukraine to come over here and get murdered by a guy who should have been in prison 14 trials ago.
Yep. And then they even though there was video evidence of him murdering her and saying, quote, "I got that white bitch," on his way out of the train, they still ruled it as mental incompetence.
It's insane.
Which I find to be the funniest damn thing, because Jeffrey Dahmer was turning people into furniture and he was mentally competent.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you have a literal Slanesh demon turning people into furniture and turning it, like his,
how he wasn't insane.
Yeah. Like, he wasn't insane, but he had his own IKEA catalog. But this dude murders, and this dude murders a woman from a country we're supposed to be sending weapons to because evil Russia has to be stopped no matter the cause. But she falls below a mentally unstable black man here in America. So it flies in the face of everything that the left argues, which is exactly why every time I've seen any of these examples of things, it always falls under that first anti-commandment. It can't go against the. It can. I am the Lord, your revolution. You
Yeah.
have no other narrative but me.
I mean, it was essentially a racist minority in America killing a protected refugee in America. Like, how much dumber of a situation could you have for a leftist to try to defend?
Yep. And
I mean, that, like, how could you ever defend either, like, one, the refugees is seeking asylum. It's an asylum seeker seeking asylum from a war conflict, and a racist minority killed her. Like, what the heck?
Well,
I mean, I don't know what else you could say about it. I mean, the guy literally said, "Got that white whatever."
Yeah.
There's no defense. There's no defense. I mean, the guy clearly, whatever his disposition was at the time, was trying to kill a white person. That's racist. That's inherently racist.
Remember too what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. The dude got attacked by a convicted multi-convicted pedophile, a serial domestic abuser, and a felon who wasn't legally allowed to carry a firearm.
Right.
And somehow the kid who went there to provide aid for the protesters who were burning the city he worked in down, he became the monster.
Yeah, it was messed up.
This is why I say the anti-commandments and just like the total inversion of everything in Christendom is exactly how this all operates. Because you had a convicted pedophile. It was the first guy that Kyle took out. God bless him for it. But
well,
somehow,
you say it that way, but really, he's getting fired at by this guy who he shot. Not even just.
Oh no.
He didn't just take the guy down. He defended himself. And, and incidentally killed the guy.
No. So the pedophile that went after him, which is the funniest thing because the pedophile died doing what he loved, which was chasing a kid. Kyle went up there, was providing first aid, and was putting out fires because the communists lit a dumpster on fire and tried to smash it into a gas station, which could have blown up and caused numerous, casualties.
I don't think people realize how much damage you can do with a gas station.
I know.
It's scary.
But that's what happened. And the dude went after him and chased Kyle. And he's on video. He's holding the gun. Like, he's running, trying to stay low and get and avoid this dude. The dude runs up on him and has been throwing hands at Kyle. And it's on the last chase around the car when he rounds there's like a sedan that he's hiding up against. The dude rounds around the front and Kyle just one taps him straight, like one or two shots, I think, to the chest, and just drops the dude. And then he starts running, and the crowd forms around him and starts chasing him. And that's where you get the guy who tried to bludgeon him with his skateboard, and and
almost successfully did so.
Almost did, yeah. And Kyle put 2 shots to his chest, dropped him down, and then I forget the guy's name. It's some Grosskreutz. Grosskreutz, that's his name. Yeah. He's the one that raised his gun to Kyle, who's on the ground. He's prone. He's on his back, and he just fired 2 into the chest of the skateboarder. Grosskreutz goes to kill Kyle, and Kyle blows his bicep out.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah.
And blows that one out, and then he gets up, runs, hands up, don't shoot, because, hey, look at that, it goes both ways. And then he gets to safety. that whole thing got exacerbated into a total conundrum of lies and misinformation. And every time you bring it up, they immediately pivot away from it and they ignore
And
it.
they used AI. That was the first time I ever heard of using AI enhanced evidence in court, and it did not hold up at all.
It did not. It did
That
not.
was wild. I couldn't believe they tried doing that. I mean, well, I can totally believe they tried doing that, but yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, even though it was still like a 188p image, they still tried to use it. And it's just like there's nothing here, guys.
Right, yeah.
But
I think anything AI edited should be inadmissible, unless you're suing over an AI generated content. Then of course you have to look at it.
yeah, well, that's flock cameras, but the
Yeah.
they always operate by the same thing, and this is why I see it in media all the time. You'll see, like, if it goes against the narrative, which is this thing is good, right? This movie is good. This game is good because all of these institutions say it. IGN, Rotten Tomatoes, whatever. It doesn't matter how valuable or critical or not that institution is, as long as they say what we are supposed to agree with, we go in lockstep. The Odyssey. The Odyssey is this feminist rewriting, and it's atrocious. The movie is awful, and I was wrong about the version of the book that Nolan used.
It was the Emily Wilson translation, right?
Yes, and
Emily Wilson, they asked her about it, and she said, basically, this sucks.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I can't believe she just like, this sucks.
It's so funny because so I mentioned this on my stream that a lot of people corrected me in the comments saying you shouldn't pull the trigger on this one so fast. You're wrong about it. The Emily Wilson translation is good, etc., etc. All right,
it's not horrible. It's not horrible. It's just it's not like if you're looking for. It'd be like the similarity between like Catholic translations, for example, like the New American Bible, which is used in the liturgy at every mass, is not as reverent of language, or not as it's got the more inclusive language, the easier to understand lingo than like say the Douay Rheims, which is the old archaic regal English that was used all the way up until the Second Vatican Council.
Yeah, it's diluted, it's watered down.
Exactly, same idea.
And the version of the Odyssey I had read, which I admitted was, and I didn't even hide this. Like it's been a while since I've gone through the Odyssey, but the version I went through, I don't remember if it was Lightomere or the other one, but it's one of the two common ones, and I jumped the gun on saying I would never read the Emily Wilson version. Not that I would anyway, because I have those two other versions that I would rather read.
I wouldn't, just because I have a stronger mastery of the English language than the person that's geared for.
Yeah. So people mention that, and regardless of how that turned out, the fact that the feminist blasted the movie, which was turned into feminist like woke propaganda because of what Cersei, Calypso, and Penelope all did in the movie, is completely different from or maybe not completely different, but it very much is antithetical to who they were in the story. And we see that in the way the media was portrayed. You couldn't disagree with it. You couldn't go against it, or else, oh, you're just wrong. And I hate those kinds of arguments, or those kinds of comments come in all the time. There was one that came in the other day on my Spider-Man Brand New Day review, which is, I didn't even call woke, and I still blasted the same kind of things I would have, because Jean Grey's a monster in the movie. She's a psychopath. She throws MJ. She walks MJ off a roof to her death. She walks a construction worker into the road, and he gets ran over by a speeding taxi at like 30.
Whoa! Spoilers, homie. No, I'm just kidding. I ain't gonna watch that. Tobey Maguire forever.
Right, Spider-Man will never be topped. She guns down a bunch of the people in the DODC using all of because she's mind controlling everybody. It's like she's doing all of this with glee, but because and it's gone so far is that one of the comments that I mocked was because the construction workers in front of Spider-Man and she's like, well, I'm pretty fast. I'm going to go get to MJ before you. And then she walks the dude back into the road and he gets railed by the taxi, which for some reason driving at like 50 miles an hour in the streets of, of New York. But because the stuntman didn't die behind the scenes, that means he lived in the movie. Yeah, that is the level of argumentation that people are at right now trying to defend things. And because the writers were asked this question and they answered on Twitter that no, she didn't kill anybody in the movie. Well, now it's official to them. No, the writers said it. She didn't kill anybody, so you're all wrong. She's not a murderous monster. It's like that. Even if that were true, because one of the hand impales himself. The dude commits Sudoku to try and kill to commit seppuku on Spider-Man. He's dead, right? The dude's gone, but we're supposed to pretend, oh no, he lived. It's all of these arguments are so bad in the way they are made, in the way they are they cling to it so much in order to defend their points, and they will blatantly ignore everything else, even the malintent of Jean. Like when she walks MJ off the roof, she like smirks at Peter, like, haha, I win, like, I'm doing this because I need to and I'm happy about it, kind of thing. Like, she is just a monster, and for some reason that's counted as not a villainous action. That's how far people are going with all of this. It has become dogma to them that no matter what, as first anti-commandment, they just keep doing it again and again.
Yeah, you should do a video on the National Legion of Decency. You know what I'm talking about?
What is this?
So
National League of Decency.
Early movie film days, the Catholic bishops of the United States ordered Catholics to boycott theaters. This is like 1930s, because there was so much just profane things being portrayed in movies, that the bishop said the movies shall be boycotted until things change. And they actually, this is something I've discussed with several, but most recently my podcast with Dr. E. Michael Jones, which is why I thought of this again. But
what years was this again?
What year? This was back in the 1930s.
Okay.
Basically, Hollywood was going bankrupt because Catholics were boycotting theaters over the bishops calling them to do so, and so they had to reel it in and like clean up their act, pun intended. And it was. I mean, it literally functioned from like the 1930s all the way pretty much till Vatican II, when things kind of went off the rails again. But like, that is one of, like, it's for the same reason that Catholics were able to organize and convince McDonald's to start making fish fillets on Fridays. Like the Catholic impact to culture in the United States cannot be misunderstood. I mean, it was so apparent, and so many things were changed or created based on the Catholic impact on Hollywood, the United States, food industries. And the problem is we just don't have that level of commitment, faith, culture, and strength in numbers that we had back when. And you could get Hollywood corrected in a day if all the Catholics in the United States stopped going to movies, stopped paying for subscriptions, stopped doing all the stuff that we used to do and the bishops ordered us to.
That's interesting to learn, because it makes sense, because so many of the movies between the 20s and 30s were so blatantly demonic.
Really bad, yeah.
Did you see? Oh man, what is it called? I want to say it was a French movie. It's one of the first French movies, or just silent movies in general, and it literally depicts the devil eating people.
What the heck?
I'm not kidding. Hold on.
Oh my.
I will see about trying to find it, and if I don't find it here, I'll send it to you later. But yeah, so you know that picture, the painting, what was his name? Hieronymus Bosch.
I've heard of this name.
Okay,
Yes.
he's got those really dry, macabre sort of takes on hell, and one of the pictures is it's supposed to be, I think it's not Prometheus. It's another Titan like consuming his son or something like that. And it's like he's holding the person that he's consuming like right around like the shoulders, like like arms down at your side, like around like the hands are around the biceps and the torso area, and he's just taking a chunk straight out of this dude. I don't know if it's the head or the neck or whatever.
Oh my.
Um, but that painting is basically the movie that's being depicted. There's
Oh
people
man.
in line in like presumably in hell, and they're just walking up to the devil, who's just like this big version. It's just some dude hanging out of a curtain, obviously, but he like picks up like a proportionate doll and just starts munching on the doll.
Oh my.
It is actually one of the first movies ever, um, one of the first silent movies like ever made. I don't remember if it was here in America or in France, but it's just straight up, it's just demonic. Another one that came from, I want to say like 22 or 27. It's literally what Alex Jones recorded. It was Bohemian Grove. They were actually on
The
screen.
Kabbalah.
But they were actually like performing a, I don't remember if the sacrifice in the movie was supposed to be real or not, but they were sacrificing to Moloch. It's just a giant, it's the bull-headed statue of Moloch, and they're just throwing things onto the platters.
Yeah.
Like that's basically how Hollywood started the silent era of films. It's crazy. And then of
There was
course
a lot of occult involved in a lot of modern technologies when they first came out. Like for example, Jack Parsons, part of the original jet propulsion. Like they basically tried to wipe him from every NASA document possible because they don't want to be associated with this guy because he was heavily involved in the occult when he was also involved in the jet propulsion laboratory. It's wild the amount of occult things going on in the United States back then.
I may have
Found the video.
found the movie. Hold on. I don't know. Oh, yep, found it. Yep. You can watch the whole thing for free. It's on Wikipedia.
Why would I want to?
I'm just well, I fast forward. It's an hour and 1 minute in. It's La Inferno.
Oh, I've heard of this.
It's 1911.
I've heard of this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm looking at it. The six wings. There's it's the devil. He's six wings. It's Dante's Inferno. The cave is iced over. There's the six-winged devil in the background, and it's a regular person like eating a doll, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just doing that. He's just munching down on that right now. That is, yeah. So I was wrong on the year, but that was 1911.
You know what one of the movies I was required to watch for my film study class in college?
Mm.
It's called Birth of a Nation. Do you know what that's about?
Really?
Do you know what it's about?
Yeah, I know Birth of a Nation. That's funny.
But there's two versions of Birth of a Nation. Do you know they actually, on the 100th year anniversary, they remade Birth of a Nation, but it's not like at all associated with the original film, and it's about how the end of black slavery, essentially. It's like a total inverse of what the original film was about.
Oh, really? Because I know the original, because the original was the one that crap, who was
The founding of the KKK.
yeah no I know that. Who was the president that played it at the White House?
I was not aware of this fact.
Oh yeah. Hold on.
It was a Democrat, though. I guarantee that.
I want to say it was Roosevelt.
No, it wasn't. It was definitely not Teddy Roosevelt. Unless he was unaware of what it was, because it was a very I mean,
No, it wasn't Teddy. It was
Was it Herbert Hoover?
Woodrow Wilson was the president who screened Birth of a Nation in the White House on February 18th,
Democrat.
1915. This event was the first time a motion picture was shown in the executive mansion. There you go.
Yeah, that movie is like basically the undoing of the Civil War and the reinstitution of slavery with the KKK being the good guys. That is the movie we're talking about.
Yeah.
And the reason why I had to study it was because it's the first film with a essentially landscape scene of military battle going on.
Yeah.
That's its claim to fame. That's why most film study classes study it, 'cause it's the first time a big battle was depicted on screen.
Okay. Well, yeah.
But yeah, look it up. There's another movie called Birth of a Nation that came out literally 100 years to the day almost.
That's funny.
From when that came out, and I think it's a pro African American some kind of movie, which is
that's so.
I mean, I actually have no issues with bad mouthing the Birth of the KKK movie because the KKK is anti-Catholic, very anti-Catholic, like to the point where there were Democrat cartoons in the newspapers of the KKK being the good guys and pushing the Catholics out of the nation. Like that's the type of stuff the KKK was all about.
They took our state from us. And,
they also stole their entire uniform is actually based on a Catholic uniform worn in Spain, I believe, for specific ceremonies of the Catholic Church. So sometimes you'll see like depictions of Catholics wearing things like, why are the Catholics dressed as the KKK? They're not. The KKK stole our wardrobe. It's the other way around.
Oh yeah, I like watching that video every so often. I think it's Spain or France where they have the cultural rite and they're walking through the street, and then the cameraman pans over. There's just some black woman who looks like she's seen a ghost. What is happening?
Yeah, she just has no idea what's going on.
And then an apologist cuts in. He's like, "Listen, you're fine. The rope is for us, not you." So real quick, this is really funny, and I kind of want to see it now. AI overview, but it says that there's a 2023 political remake that was directed by Ben Shapiro, an executive produced by Mel Gibson. This is this film is a direct remake / reimagining of the 1915 Griffith film. Unlike the source material, which promoted the Ku Klux Klan, this version satirizes the Klan and links them to the Democratic Party. It features an ensemble cast including Dennis Rodman,
what?
Gina Carano, and Kevin Sorbo, and was released exclusively on Daily Wire Plus on the 4th of July, 2023. I kind of need to see this.
What is this? What is it called?
It is the 2023 remake of Birth of a Nation.
2023
Yeah, it's just Birth of a Nation, but it's the remake from 2023.
I am so confused by everything you just said. It makes no sense. Dennis Rodman is in it?
I know. Hold on, let me delete.
No, this says Film Idea Wiki. This is fake stuff. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is fake.
Oh, it's okay.
I was like, there's no way this is real. I was like, oh my goodness, there's no way. Well, they got Sean Connery in here listed as a potential.
Okay. I did say AI overview, and it wasn't.
All right, thank God. I was like, what?
Oh, I was about to be so happy.
That would have been something else.
Can you imagine?
Oh
Dennis
my
Rodman
goodness!
as like a KKK member.
No, I can't imagine that.
The funniest thing ever.
Okay, I'm looking this up now. 2015 Birth of a Nation. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I did see that the 2015-16 remake.
Yeah, because it's basically 1 century later they did a new movie.
Mm-hmm.
2016, right? So probably film intended to release in 2015. Yeah. Yeah, and it's about an enslaved guy who led a slave rebellion. So it's like the antithesis of the 1915 film. But
yeah.
All right. We're at the 2.5 hour mark. I appreciate everybody for being here, but I want to get into some other information that I always give to all my guests, in that Towards the end of it, I always ask my guests if they have questions for me.
Um, you know what, you may or may not have an answer to this.
Okay.
Do you uh okay, so relating to Catholicism, have you seen or know of a book that is not the Council of Trent that specifically counters Luther's arguments?
Specifically counters Luther's arguments.
My wife and I, we haven't gone back to look at things because there was a brief moment where I was really getting into like the Lutheran arguments because I watch and listen to Razor Fist, and he's a Lutheran. He calls
Yeah.
himself an Augsburg Catholic, but I know he's not. And uh, so whenever he says something politically, he's like almost always on the ball. But when it comes to theology and claiming, we are, Lutheranism is the one true church and yada yada yada, I know he's just painfully wrong in most cases. Um, but I outside of the Council of Trent, I don't know of a book that specifically counters the arguments that Luther made with like the 95 Theses and whatnot.
Well, the 95 Theses are actually, most of the 95 Theses are very Catholic. It's kind of funny when you read through them. Like, most of them disagree with the Catholic Church and what the Catholic Church says. They just say them in a different way. Really, the bulk of what he does wrong stems from the idea of sola fide, which is that all you need is faith. You don't need anything else.
Yes.
This is the fundamentally incorrect idea that builds everything else wrong within it. And it leads to things like this weird five solas dude on Twitter who always posts like, all I need is faith and sola scriptura and sola gratia. And
You're talking about
if you
soul
don't,
bad.
if you, well, he's part of this group too. Like
He's a fool too.
The weird thing is, like, why are you using Latin to disprove the Catholic Church? Why not just say what you're trying to say?
Uh-huh.
Like, why are we using solas? This is the stupidest. Like, it's so stupid. Don't use Latin if you don't want to be Roman, okay? Like, just flat out. Don't. Why are you using? Unless you're like a scientist who studies everything in Latin. Like, why are you? It's just stupid. Like, if you're trying to be this, modern sola blah 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 church, why on earth are you using Latin?
My friend, are you telling me that I shouldn't use Latin if I don't know Latin because it makes me sound pretentious?
Basically, yeah.
Are you pulling a Jay Dyer right now?
Anyway. But aside from the funny discourse of that,
yeah.
I actually recently read a book that I used to think like, oh, Luther probably just either didn't understand the things that he was doing would lead to what happened to Lutheranism today, which is just a horrifying thought. Like, if he saw what the Lutheran Church was today, I don't know if he would have made the decision he made.
But
now I look back and that Logos Rising that I've been reading has an entire 100 pages on Martin Luther.
Really?
And the things he was doing to bring people to Lutheranism. And now I just think Martin Luther was just flat out evil. Just an evil person. So after he fell from grace, excommunication, do you know what he did to bring other priests into the Lutheran Church?
I do not, but I do know that he himself took a mistress.
That was actually because of something else he was doing at the time. So the way he lured
every time I get into any subject about any of the Protestants, not just any of the modern apologists, because at this point I'd rather just swing first and confess later, because they're so stupid.
Yeah.
But and learning there's a very romantic view of Lutheranism and or Luther from someone like Razor, and that's fine because that's his perspective, and I get that. But when you dig into the history of things, because going back to what led me to all becoming Catholic, I wanted to dive into the deep end because, like with science, I wanted to understand where it started and then figure out everything later. So I learned history, science, philosophy of nature, yada yada yada. Understood that, saw how it evolved, and now I'm here because I went to the oldest information to understand that first, and then see where people changed. When I
Yep.
do the same thing with everything else, in the case of Lutheranism, starts off bright and shiny, and then you find out he was clapping some chick on the side, and and then he was like, you know what? Actually, all of the tiny hats that I listened to that actually perverted my version of the Bible are probably actually not the best people, and I shouldn't have gone to them.
Oh no, he was always anti-Jewish.
Oh, he always was.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah. No, he was. That was never a consideration. He was very anti-Jewish, especially the religious types. But I think he was also somewhat racist. That's a different story. No. What he did was they actually kidnapped nuns who were known to have been involved in the type of stuff that the OnlyFans models are into. They went to these convents where these like royal figures who had been lived perverted lifestyles prior to becoming nuns and putting into a convent, and they liberated them by kidnapping them and then used them as temptations for priests who had previously fallen to the sin of lust, and convinced these priests to break their solemn vows and marry the nuns. Like the ultimate breaking of two vows. You're breaking the nun's vow and the priest's vow, and they're making a vow together. Like, talk about just absolutely taking a huge dump on holy orders. That's what Luther was up to. And he did this consistently. He brought hundreds of priests and nuns together in unholy marriages that led to them becoming Lutherans. This was how he recruited priests and nuns over to his cause, and effectively perverted, like just totally perverted the German church at the time. And so after I read that, and then just to put the cherry on top, what was he known for having done and even admitted to in a letter? Having straight up parties of essentially orgies with many of these former OnlyFans nuns. That's what he was up to. And when it got so bad that it was actually discrediting the Lutheran theology, he ended up marrying one of the women he had been involved with to put those rumors aside.
Really?
Yes.
Where can I find this?
In the book Logos Rising.
Logos Rising.
Yeah. Which is actually a book that has referenced sources at the end of every chapter.
I would be most interested in that, because that's I knew about the mistress. I did not know it. Wow, crazy how that Martin Luther King Jr. fella did the same thing.
Well, he is, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He is the junior. No. Somebody actually, I kid you not, somebody legitimately thought that Martin Luther, the one who started Lutheranism, was Martin Luther King's dad. Like, I about had an instant aneurysm when somebody tried explaining to me that the Lutherans were the good guys because Martin Luther King Jr. was the son of Martin Luther.
Oh wow, that's
I about had an instant aneurysm, because how do you even fix that worldview? You can't. Like, how would you possibly do that? So
I have no idea. I'm still stuck on the idea that Luther was OnlyFansing it up. As he was. Like, I knew about the mistress, and I knew that he created the idea of sola fide and sola scriptura to justify his fear of things, because I did learn obviously fairly recently, within the last within this year actually, because I've mostly got this interest now. That he created the ideas of solas fide and scriptura because he wanted to justify his actions because he feared hell more than God.
Yeah, that is true. The other thing that's interesting about Logos Rising is it compares Islam to like Calvinism and all the various forms of Protestantism that effectively make matters of faith into like sola fide, unless into dogmas that actually destroy science. Because what the Muslims did is they made everything that happens an act of God. And because everything that happens is an act of God, you can't actually predict anything. Because you don't know if an ant is going to turn right or left and enter his anthill, or he's going to go to his death into a river. Yeah. And because you can't make that prediction, everything else in science falls apart because nothing can be predicted. All are acts of God. Well, sola fide, like we're traipsing down the same route. Like everything is God at the end of the day. And even though a lot of these Protestants are smart enough to know that's not really the end conclusion, that is the end conclusion of the idea of sola fide, sola scriptura, all these solas that they so hold dear. The end of the road is essentially the Islamic form of science, which is no science at all.
So I know Islam a lot better than I do the other like everything else. In Islam, one of the arguments that they claim proves, because they actually claim that there are a multitude of scientific miracles and proofs in the Quran and thus the hadiths, which are the equivalent
I know what the hadiths are
of the catechism for anybody who doesn't know.
But there's way more in the hadith than there is in the catechism. I mean, the hadith is so massive.
And the hadiths are incredibly contradictory because all of the hadiths are Protestant at core because they are all sola scriptura, doing what needgod.net and all these other all do, which is your personal interpretation is the final authority ultimately, even though they say it's God and scripture, which is wrong because they are the ones who have to define what God said. Anyway, one of the scientific miracles in the Quran that they stick to is the way the body in the womb forms. And they claim I forget which of the two, or which way it goes. It's like the bones first and then the flesh, or the flesh first, then the bones. I think they said it was bones first. And that's incorrect. It's close, but it's incorrect. And because they take it as an absolute dogma, the Muslims must argue it because it's in the book and the book is perfectly preserved. Another dogma. But the problem is they're wrong because there's like 28 different Qurans in the world today, and half of them all have different wording, have different verbiage, have different punctuations. Like there's so much that goes into it. And so it gets really frustrating when trying to argue with somebody because like dialogue breaks down.
Yeah.
The same thing goes for like everything else, and that goes back to the humility point that I mentioned earlier. Of like when I jumped into all of this and started studying. My wife is Catholic, so I jumped straight into the deep end. Right, this is what we need to do. This is what we can't do. I can't touch your butt anymore until marriage. Yada yada yada. And so learning and studying Catholicism is the same in the same way it was parallel to studying the beginning of like the philosophy of nature and like the origins of science.
Yeah.
So I got the foundation and was able to work forward and see what everyone else was saying in different ways. So I now have a better understanding of like why Protestants view the things that they do, because the Protestant view is, I think any Catholic is any version of Christian, any of us would agree would be a lot better if all it took was faith, that you are saved no matter what, right? It's way more attractive to believe that, but the truth is that it's not enough. Because when you
Right.
actually read through everything, and that's something that really pissed me off about studying Luther is, the book of James is an epistle of straw.
That's what he
Well, it's
says.
real convenient that James 2:24, 2:26, I think. Faith without works is dead.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. 100%.
I like to explain it like this, and using the parallels, the parable is really funny. Faith is your interest in the game. The scripture is the rule book, and then works is playing the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't do only one of those three. You have to do all three, otherwise it's not genuine. Because if you're just playing the game and you read the book, you're not really interested, you're just kind of getting through it, and so you're not connecting. Let's say you're sitting there playing a board game with your wife or something, or your kids. There's no real connection because you're just doing it to do it and whatever. So it's empty. It's
That's works without faith.
yeah, exactly. What was oh, I just had it on the tip of my tongue.
Works without faith will not lead you to heaven, and faith without works will also not lead you to heaven.
Yeah. I'll maybe I'll remember it later. But like, you can look at the book, but looking at the book is not playing the game or necessarily having an interest.
Yeah.
Having an interest is not necessarily playing the game or understanding the rules. And if you're just playing the game, but you're not following the rules, then you're doing things wrong and you don't know about it. And if you don't have an interest, then you really don't care about playing by the rules. But you have to have all three in conjunction to understand what you're doing and actually commit to it. And so, Lutheranism, Methodist, Calvinist, like every time I encounter the same thing, it's always the same problem. There's always some shortcoming that usually gets swept under the rug with a bad excuse.
Yeah, that's accurate. All right. I have time for one more question if you have one, or one more thing if you want to discuss it, because it is coming up on midnight for me and I got to go to bed here soon.
I gotcha. It's not necessarily a question. It's more so I mentioned before about how the parallel of the Catholic Church as an academic institution. So I want to kind of like I wanted to get your hearing of it, because there's
Okay.
because I use this as an explanation for my buddy Fogg. He's also East Coast. He's up in Vermont though. He or Connecticut, one of the two. He really liked the parallel that I used of 2 + 2 is 4 is the Catholic Church, while 2 and 2 is 5 is Protestantism. What I explained was that the math has to align both forwards and backwards. So
Yeah.
I gave comparisons of 2 and 2 is 4 is like the baseline study of it. And then you can do 1 + 3 = 4, 2 × 2 = 4, 4 divided or 8 divided by 2 = 4. Like, you can do these different things, and then if you reverse the math, you can still get the same conclusion, because it all has to equal 4.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get to 4.
And so the comparisons I brought up were the reason why the Catholic Church is the one true faith in this mathematical comparison, because I was using a mathematical academy at the time, was that if 1 + 3 was the blood of the lamb was smeared above the houses to protect them from the angel of death. There was 2 times 2 was like the washing of Christ's feet, or the washing of the lamb to around its feet and everything. And I forget what the other example was, but when you reverse it to still get the answer of 4, you have the comparisons which align with Christ because of his blood would cover us. He was washed with the perfume and things of that nature. The 2 and 2 is 5 comparison is where things get screwy, and this was the Protestant view, because the math isn't mathing. Because you're getting a different answer from what should be the same solution. So when you look at Sola Scriptura, for example, because Ryan over at needgod.net opened his mouth on this one and said Mark 16:16, I think. He said that one doesn't exist, but it's in the Bible. He just made that up when he was arguing with Trent Horn about that. Or no, I don't remember if it was Trent or if it was who's Shameless Popery?
Joe Heschmeyer.
Heschmeyer.
Also somebody I've interviewed on this channel.
Oh, cool. I'll have to go back and check that. But he said that doesn't exist, and he'll twist scripture to fit what he says because of personal interpretation. Hence, you have the same math, the faith, the scripture, etc., but he's getting a different conclusion. I mainly wanted to ask you, how does that, as a explanation, sound to you? Because I didn't want to make or use a heresy. Because the one I was using before was like God, to explain the Trinity, it's like God is ice cream. It's like chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, 3 flavors, 1 ice cream. But it turns out that's modalism.
It is. Yes.
Like, oh no, I'm an idiot.
Well, like
hell.
It's similar to how St. Patrick explained the Trinity, where he's going through Ireland and used the clover as the Trinity, because the clover has 3 leaves stemming from one plant. None of the leaves exist outside of the plant, but they all exist within the plant as 3 separate leaves coming from one plant. It's probably the best analogy I've ever heard of the Trinity, is St. Patrick's analogy he gave to the pagans.
Okay.
But to be fair, St. Augustine also discusses the Trinity, and he basically says he has this story where he's on the beach and he encounters a little boy who is trying to use a shell or a bucket, I don't remember which, to remove water from the ocean. He goes, well, what are you doing trying to remove water from the ocean with this bucket? He goes, I'm emptying the sea 1 bucket at a time. And he's like, you can't do that. You'll never get it. You'll never be done. And he goes, but I am more likely to complete this task than you are to ever understand the Trinity. And then the boy disappears. It's like, whoa, wait, what? It was God telling Augustine to give up, essentially. Like, you'll never figure this out. So the Trinity is like one of those things where it's like, we understand it, but we don't. But we do, but we don't. Like, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Got it. Okay, that's a faith deal. Got it. But as far as your mathing and whatnot, well, it makes sense. If you can, like, the examples you would need to provide are like probably Old Testament typology that leads to Jesus in the New Testament. And if you're doing that, and it makes sense both ways, like, you got the variables on both sides, Jesus adds up with what he did to this prophecy, the Old Testament. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a logical apologist strategy, is to take something from the Old Testament, which signifies Jesus, and add it in a math equation. Like, okay, this, and this equals this, and this, Old Testament to New Testament. Boom. For example, what is it? Isaiah 7, whatever, is a virgin shall conceive and bear a child, and that is Mary having Jesus. Like, these are things that are very easy to point to and say, yes, in the New Testament, this adds up to this. Or, like, for example, Genesis 3:15 with she shall crush thy head, and it's like her seed versus your seed, and it's talking about the seed of the devil, the seed of Mary, Jesus, and the devil shall be fighting, and that Jesus shall, the seed of the woman shall overcome the serpent, which is the devil. These kinds of things are very easy to point to and say, yeah, look, the Old Testament and the New Testament, they're just, one of them predicts the other, One of them is prophetic to the what happens in the New Testament, and it's easy to add these things up. And again, it's like you said, Jesus is the Lamb of God, right?
Yeah.
The Lamb of God. The Lamb was used in the Passover to protect the Israelites from the plagues. The Lamb of God is used to take on our sins and give us absolution, provided we perform the sacrament of confession. Like these things are all just, and hopefully I didn't spew anything that made no sense or was actually a heresy. Like you were saying, it's very easy to accidentally spew heresies. It's a lot easier than you think. Like there was a video earlier today I saw where some sedevacantist, if you know what that is, that's a small group of people who believe the Pope isn't the Pope and that the seat is vacant.
Oh, isn't that like Mel Gibson?
He is an interesting conundrum. I'm not 100% sure what he believes, and nobody will nail him down on that.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that's what he believes too.
Allegedly, he could be a sedepravationist, where like the Pope is validly elected but lost his papal authority due to teaching heresy. I think that's what he believes. Not that there is no Pope, but that the Pope exists and he's teaching heresy. I think that's what Mel Gibson believes.
Gotcha.
It's a weird diatribe of sedevacantism. But long story short, where was I going with this? Anyway, it's easy to accidentally fall into heresy. Like, for example, I think it was Scott Hahn posted something that sounded completely logical. And somebody commented and said, like, that's actually like a heresy. And he looked into it and was like, oh, I think it kind of is. And he deleted the video. Like, it's very easy for any random person. And I don't know if that's exactly what happened, but I saw somebody comment that. And without digging too far into it, he did delete the video. So whatever it was, the reason, like, it's very easy to just fall into these traps. And as long as you have the humility to admit it when you're called out, and you fix the thing that you said and correct it, I don't see any issue with you using whatever apologist strategy is going to work to help you get somebody to become, come to the one true faith that is Catholic. And sometimes you have to oversimplify. Oversimplification is usually what leads to heresy.
Yeah.
When you oversimplify a complex subject, you usually end up with an illogical answer or a conclusion that's not actually accurate. So anyway, on that note, is there anything else you got? I'll give you I got like 4 minutes here till I hit the 3-hour mark.
No, that's fine.
All right. Well, I do plan to bring you back on here in the future.
Yeah, sure.
We'll have to find maybe we'll just dig into something like Dune and just talk about Dune or something. Or if you do end up doing your videos on Wing Feather, I'd be curious on that. But maybe we pick like a focus.
You had a pick with me about Dune.
I do. There's a lot. That movie's terrible.
Okay.
Like there's if you've read the book, there's no redeemable qualities to any of the Dune movies. Although the sci-fi series, you should review the Dune sci-fi series.
Oh, the one from
horrible CGI. No, it's from the early 2000s.
Yeah, that's the one I'm referencing.
Oh yeah, sorry, I thought you said 1980s
series that came out.
Yes, the miniseries. Sorry, I heard when you said miniseries, I heard the 1980s. And I was like, no, that's David Lynch's Dune.
No. The Lynch movie is funny. No, I meant the series. I knew what you were talking about.
Okay. Kind of like when I misheard you about the Gay Men's Club earlier.
That'd be a horrible thing to wake up to and just be like, "Hey, Al, look at what one of my fans created," and it's just Peter running out of the orgy, and it's just my head on him. Like, no.
Oh my goodness. On that note, I just want to say I do appreciate you sitting down with me and doing this conversation, and I look forward to the next one. And I'm happy that your journey led you to Catholicism. It's amazing what the digging into the details does for people.
Yeah, the scientific method brought me to Catholicism.
And it should. I mean, really, when people talk about the scientific method, it was invented, I'm pretty sure, by a Catholic priest.
Oh yeah, I touched on the history in I think it was like the second Castlevania review I did. I was like, the Big Bang Theory came from a Belgium priest, and several other examples that I brought up, and even mentioned that the first college, the original university, was started by Catholicism to preserve Greek philosophy and arithmetic and a bunch of other things that was being destroyed by Muslims. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, well, wow, thank you.
Well, again, if you guys want to go check him out, if you're a fan of my channel and you are interested in what Mr. Al over here has to say, go subscribe to. How do you pronounce your name? I'm so sorry. I keep in my head it's ALBELEO.
Yeah, it's okay. People have mispronounced it since World of Warcraft when I played it. One of my buddies called me, "Hey, I'll blow you. Get over here."
Oh my god.
Yeah, I've been on the receiving end of a lot of jokes. So maybe the gay Family Guy thing is actually pretty on point.
Somebody's gonna piece together those two links of you saying that.
Yeah, so it's ALBELEO. Yeah,
ALBELEO. Okay.
ALBELEO. Yeah, you can check me out on my channel. I complain about a lot of movies and review them and yada yada yada. And often now get to throw accurate theology behind some of the things that I couldn't explain before, like Castlevania. I got a subscribe star if you want to talk to me. $5 gets $5 a month gets you the Discord where you can talk to me personally as well. And then secondary channel with Belmorian Galaxy, that's Battletech and Mech Warrior. If you want to take a step away from other things, and of course Twitter, where you can see me get into a roasting competition with stupid people.
Don't accidentally do @ALBELEO because that's not his Twitter handle.
Yeah, it's not the right one.
Yeah. All right. On that note, guys, I'm turning into a pumpkin. It is past midnight for me, and I got a pumpkin carriage to catch before I lose my way home. And the Wicked Witch catches me, or not the Wicked Witch, the evil stepmother.
I just threw some holy water at her.
I got the glass slipper was left at the ball, guys. We got to go.
You just come out, kick down the door, and you've got like a super soaker just filled with holy water. Like it's dawn of the Dusk Till Dawn.
I just remember this is the last diatribe I'm gonna do, and I'm hitting the end button right afterwards.
Sure.
My favorite stupid video I've posted on previous like Twitter threads is that guy. Oh gosh, what's his name? But he's from like the movie This Is the End. He's got two forks and they're like rubber banded together, and he goes, "The power of Christ compels you." I can't think of which guy that, but he's like doing it to like dead Seth Rogen or something.
Oh, I don't remember. It's not the black. I don't think it's the black guy.
Baruchel, Jay Baruchel.
I don't remember.
Is that the right name?
I don't remember.
I'm gonna send you the GIF right after this is over. All right. On that note, guys, I'll see you guys next Monday. Let me just double check. Since I screwed up last week, I was supposed to say it was you coming on my Tuesday podcast next week. Let's get the right guest for next week. Next week I have Andrew. You guys will meet Andrew next week. He's a friend of mine that I've met in the local area. So cool. I'm not going to give any other personal information about him. On that note, I will see you guys on the next one.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.